Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another installment of the unofficial and official Peak Fiction Podcast. I am your host today, King_Recon. And today I have with me, as usual, the latest entrant in the Steel Ball Run race. The individual who is currently going through Kojima greatness, Araki greatness, and the weekly Oda awesome sauce, with a little bit of Chihiro Bros action as well. Shout out to Kagurabachi. But my good brother, AJ, is joining us here today. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited for all the stuff we're going to talk about, because all of it is not necessarily, like, all the stuff we've got, I'm not going to spoil, well, I guess it might be in the title and the table of contents, but regardless, it's all stuff that we started out talking, like, One Piece, Bleach, a little bit later, Metal Gear Solid. Like, all this stuff is unrecognizable from the stuff we talked about in the first couple of podcasts, you know? So it's cool to just continue to be able to do this with all sorts of diverse stories. And we've got some amazing stuff to talk about today.
Agreed, man. Agreed. And dude, there's one in particular that I've been dying to talk to you about for months, ever since I finished it. And so that's going to be extremely exciting stuff. So getting right into it, there was one thing that I was teasing AJ, which was a question. I just finished my reread of Vagabond. I was spamming Fiji whenever I finished it. I was like, bro, it was like the perfect thing that I needed at that point in time. And it was absolutely beautiful. And so there's a thing that Takahiko Inoue brings up in an author comment that I wanted to bring up to you. I'm going to read it off, and then I want to hear your thoughts on it, / something that that you can apply this in terms of like your own life with stories. So in the Volume 20 author's comment, Takahiko Inoue states, "The faded connections that tie us to one another, and to things truly have resonance, to things truly have resonance. It might be your connection to a certain person, or maybe a novel or a manga or a movie or a song. When you are truly reaching out with your soul, sometimes what you need will appear almost as if it were planned out. This type of thing has come to my aid." That is Inoue, of course, talking about the beauty of sometimes the right story appears at the right time. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this to see if there was a moment in time when this happened to you, when like a story came at the absolute perfect time, whether it's like one example, multiple examples, or what do you think about that whenever Takahiko Inoue says that?
I really love that idea, but I'm actually going to answer it to start. I'm going to answer it to start in a bit of in a sort of opposite way, because I actually think it's always beautiful when a piece of work comes to you at the perfect time for any number of reasons. And I have a lot of examples that I'll share in a minute. But I think it's so important to identify when you might experience a great work of art at the wrong time and realize that, okay, this is good for sure, and maybe I should be enjoying this more, but maybe I'm just too tired lately, or maybe my mind's elsewhere, or maybe I need to revisit it next year or in a couple years. Because a lot of my favorites have come about as a result of revisiting stuff that I first experienced when it was the wrong time. Like Neon Genesis Evangelion, I tried a bunch of times before I started loving it. It was the third or fourth time where I actually fell in love with it. Same with Monogatari. So I think that's really important to just mention as well. Just keep trying stuff. Obviously, if it's not going to work out, it's not going to work out, and that happens. But if you get the feeling that you might enjoy it at a different point in your life, give stuff another go. But to answer the question, that is definitely super, super true for me. And I think that in recent memory, I think One Piece was just a foremost example of that. It was an early thing to sort of get me into what streaming really meant for me. and how to go about it and everything like that. And it was just a great journey to lose myself in at that specific point in my life. Honestly, all the big three, visiting the big three as an adult when so many people have experienced it as a teenager or as a kid, is really, really meaningful to me. To then sort of share differing points of view at differing points in our lives as people revisit them. But also just a couple more in a similar sort of way. Metal Gear Solid, I feel that way about. I think it came at like a perfect point for me. And then the Yakuza series, and as well,
Yes.
one which you'll get into eventually, Final Fantasy XIV. Specifically, Shadowbringers and Endwalker. And that came at a point with me specifically in, again, my streaming journey that helps me to be able to properly, I think I was at a crossroads of being very reserved on stream and not really trying but not really succeeding at expressing myself, either just through my feelings or the things I say. And Shadowbringers and Endwalker, specifically midway through them, really helped me to open up, I guess, in a way that I hadn't before on camera. And they're part of the reason I can do that now. So that came at the perfect time for me in a bunch of ways.
Dude, that is so beautiful. I'm so glad that you brought up both sides of the coin there. Like, I truly appreciate that, because I resonated so much with what you said in the first answer, because that's exactly what happened with me with a lot of my favorites as well. The two most prominent examples being Attack on Titan and
yeah.
Tokyo Ghoul. Yeah. Like, Attack on Titan for me was obviously I watched it the moment it came out back in summer 2013. And I was into it. I wasn't into it. I was into it. I wasn't into it. But it just was not clicking. I was like, man, I don't know what it is. And it wasn't until I revisited it again when season 2 dropped that I was like, oh my god, I was an idiot. Like, it was 5 years of me having to experience other things, having to continue to find myself and my tastes, until I arrived at the point where it was just the right time for me to experience it, which is why I resonate with what you said so strongly. Whenever you do not vibe with something, even if it is multiple times, that it most certainly try it again at some point in the future, especially if you feel like it will resonate, because maybe it's just not the right time. And the same thing happened with me in Tokyo Ghoul, and that became another favorite for me. But to give a quick answer in regards to the Inoue thing, because this happens to me so often. Of course, like I was talking about with the recent Vagabond reread, I feel like that came at the perfect time. But to give an early example as to how this can apply to me was actually when that comment reached out to me in the middle of a One Piece chapter review asking me if I've ever watched Hunter x Hunter. Because Hunter x Hunter 2011 completely changed the course of the YouTube channel. I was originally planning on just being a big 3 channel. And when that comment reached out saying if I'd ever watched that, and I was like, nah, but I would definitely like to give it a shot. And that started sort of what we know the YouTube channel to be today, which is to talk about a lot of the things that interest me. And that came from that Hunter x Hunter catch-up where I was doing videos every single time I finished an arc because I was just so hooked on it. And then I was like, oh my god, if I'm really enjoying talking about this, then I gotta check out some other stuff. And that led to Kill La Kill, and that led to all of the other things, Your Lie in April, and all the other anime that would drop, Parasite that just dropped after Hunter x Hunter, and it was a huge life-changing thing that I needed at the time, just for the YouTube channel side of things. And so it was beautiful hearing you talk about the big 3, because I was like, yeah, my answer is your version of that, which is Hunter x Hunter. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing, man, when a story can resonate at the right time. But to get into our first official topic here of the video, I wanted to bring that up because when I saw that that statement in volume 20 of Vagabond, I was like, oh my god, bro, that's beautiful. I want to talk about that in a video someday. So I'm glad that we were able to discuss that here. So starting us off here, this is going to be a mainly video game related discussion, of course not limited to that. And to start that off, obviously, we've got to go with the live-action adaptation, or not even a live-action, an anime or animated adaptation of a League of Legends, It is our beloved Arcane, man. We've discussed season 1 before. I have been, like I said before, dying to talk about season 2 with you, and now that we have the opportunity to discuss season 2 as much as we please, now that it's been out for a while, and if you have not watched Arcane season 2, click away. Because obviously we're going to be talking about spoilers here. Every single thing that we talk about within this particular podcast will have spoilers. There will be no spoiler-free section from this point forward. So definitely keep an eye out for that, because I don't want to ruin your experience. But AJ, man, talk to me about Arcane Season 2. You are the Jace guy to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I think of, like, Poof, Jace, these are certain characters that I associate with you heavily, so... I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on Arcane Season 2, man. Talk to me.
I'm so honored. When it comes to these sorts of characters that are very for me, I wear it like a badge of pride. Like Poof, Jace, like Washi Joe from Haikyuu is a big one for a lot of people and me. So I love hearing that. But yeah, so Arcane Season 2, it's such an interesting and... So I guess to start with, I loved the season. I thought it was great, and it definitely enhanced my love for the series pretty significantly. However, despite that, I have a lot of problems with it. I think it's incredibly flawed, and I think it has a lot of missed potential with certain characters and certain plot lines. I think it can be sloppy. I think there are some elements of it where you can see that they didn't plan it out as pristinely as they did in season 1, which to me is basically perfect. Like everything about every episode, every visual design, every character arc, everything, every character plays a role. Like everything about season 1 to me is absolutely pristine. I don't think that's the case with season 2. I think it's messier. I think it's got problems. But given that, I think season 2 is the more interesting season. And what I mean is that it's more interesting to think about and reflect on and try to dissect, whether it be in discussion with other people or whether it be on your own as you understand the themes it's trying to get across. It's denser, it's more abstract, it's more, I think, creative in the way and ambitious with the way it attempts to tell its story and present its messages. And just overall, I think it reaches, Arcane Season 1 is one of my favorite pieces of media, one of my favorite seasons ever. It somehow tries to reach higher than it, and I just commend that ambition. And I think in some ways it does. I think in others it definitely falls shorter than Season 1. In other ways it rises a tiny bit higher, and I didn't even think that was possible. It expands, like I'm sure we'll talk about it more in depth, but just it expands upon a lot of characters in ways that I really loved, and takes it in directions I didn't think it would go for characters like Jace, Victor, Jinx, even like Vander. Vander's really interestingly characterized indirectly. Echo, Ambessa is one of the greatest achievements of Arcane, and the bulk of that is in Season 2. And then just the presentation, I think, takes a step up too. So like all around, I think it's more ambitious, bolder somehow, despite Season 1 being so creative and ambitious in and of itself. And I really commend it for that. I really appreciate all that it brought to the fore, all that it brought to the to the conversation and to the screen. And like I said, do I have problems with it? Absolutely. But I think that was always going to happen when they decided to keep progressing it and to not play it safe. And everyone can have critiques, and I think every person who's watched it has got to acknowledge that there's some things with it that maybe aren't quite as good or maybe perfectly laid out. But all that I felt walking away from it was a sense of appreciation for storytelling and for the medium of animation and just for the universe, despite having never played League of Legends. And I also, I've got to say, it gave me my favorite episode of Arcane, which was Season 2, Episode 7. I was crying the whole time through. There is footage of it. If you check my reaction to it, I was crying the whole episode, and I just couldn't believe that they gave us that work of absolute art. So yeah, those are my summed up thoughts. I'm interested to see what you think as well.
I'm so glad you mentioned that episode. That is also my favorite episode. That's one of my favorite episodes ever.
Me too.
Period. That's
incredible.
It's such an incredible episode. Um, I'm in the exact same place as you. Whenever we had a short back and forth after you finished it, I compared it to how I feel about Water 7 and his lobby.
Yeah.
As well as later, not now that you've experienced it, the same way I feel about Cold Steel 3 and Cold Steel 4, where I think the earlier is like just near perfection. It is so, you can tell so much thought went into the planning out of certain things. Everything just felt like it was just a masterclass of everything just coming about at the right time. Everyone was doing their thing. Everyone was locked in, and it came about in an extremely beautiful way. And the second part is always the one that's number one is obviously the messier of the two, but number two presents so many interesting and fascinating things that it makes them really beautiful in their own ways. And that's how I feel about Enies Lobby, and that's exactly how I feel about Cold Steel 4. And Arcane Season 2 goes right up that alley as well, because it presents some of my favorite things in all of Arcane. Jinx is my favorite character, so I throughout the course of all of Season 2, whenever we got to see it from her POV, I was locked in. I was like, yo, this is incredible. Especially as you get closer to the finale there, and and her interactions with every single member of the cast, in particular, obviously in Season 1, but in particular in Season 2, just really stood out to me. Especially the more that I've thought about it, the more that I've engaged with watching other individuals' reactions and seeing how certain things hit him, or how certain things hit them, and in comparison to how it hit me, it was Arcane Season 2 was like everything I love about this series, but simultaneously everything that I wish I could just question the creators of why they made certain decisions, why they decided to do certain things. But this is what they created with what they had in the moment internally. This is the story they wanted to say, and it's messy, it's beautiful, it's so many things. But I'm glad we got it. I'm so glad that, because in another universe where we didn't get Arcane Season 2 the way that we did, I wouldn't have Arcane Season 2 Episode 7. I wouldn't have the incredible finale of Episode 9. I wouldn't have some of my favorite moments in Episodes 3 and 4, and 5 and 6, where like so many of my favorite moments in the series take place. It reminds me, like I said, of how I felt about Cold Steel 4, where it's like, would I have changed a lot of things about this game? Sure, I would have. But it would have taken away what's like 10 ties for my second favorite moment in Trails, which is almost the entirety of that game. And that's exactly how I feel about Arcane Season 2, where there were just so many moments that had me leaping out of my seat. I remember every time those 3 episodes dropped each week, the first two times I was at work, and I watched all those episodes while I was at work, of the first 6 episodes. The first 3, obviously, when they dropped, the next 3. And I was locked in, man. Like, every time I took a break, I was like, all right, another section. We're getting through another section now. And it was such an incredible experience. The imperfections of the weekly experience as presented through a television series, and I really, really loved it. I'm so glad that we have them together, because we're able to parallel exactly what makes Season 1 work as well as it does, and then what makes Season 2 as interesting as it is, because like you were saying in whenever you were discussing your thoughts on it, Season 2 undoubtedly has something about it that just makes me want to think about it. Mm-hmm. It presents so many interesting concepts through multiple different characters that it just stays rent free. And the fact that coming off of Season 2, I saw Jace as high as he was on your list, and Jinx is extremely high on my personal list. Just goes to show that with the characters that we came off of Season 1 really loving, sure, there may have been certain instances where There were characters that we wish could have continued the greatness of season 1. But in terms of of a character that I really love, once again going back to Jinx, I wouldn't have had it any other way. And so season 2, going into once again season 2 episode 7, is sort of representation of like, I could have had an alternate universe where everything was perfect, but that's not my universe. And it presents a really interesting idea and a very interesting meta question, Final Fantasy VII Remake style. And so I'm just I feel blessed and at the same time cursed that I'm in love with Arcane, because it truly is something beautiful. Just to get a few more thoughts out of this particular season, was there a single moment or cliffhanger that really, really killed you, especially since you were doing reactions? I was able to just watch them all on my own and keep going.
Yeah.
But was there like one particular cliffhanger that killed you, that you could not watch the next episode fast enough?
A cliff. So, because my relationship with Arcane is reacting to it and then discussing stuff for an hour or two, and then I'm used to a big. I was used to a big lull in between episodes, so I kind of conditioned myself to not need to immediately watch the next one. But I did.
Okay.
But in general, with the first act, I felt that way. Like I think the first couple of episodes are really good, but among the weaker ones in the season. But nonetheless, they were so good in just getting you back into the world, establishing foundations, and they were just such easy, immersive, engrossing watches that I was like, damn, I just want to watch it immediately. So I felt that way in general, but one moment in particular that had me feeling like it was such an out-of-body experience was the end of episode 3, where Ambessa has this terrifying nationalistic just fascist regime that she just conjures through her sheer manipulation and intelligence and authority and power, and Caitlyn takes up the position, and you fear for Vi, you fear for Caitlyn, you are horrified but yet somehow impressed at Ambessa, and it's just a horrifying moment that just had me in such awe at, oh my god, what are they doing with this season? It's legit one of the most horrifying moments I've ever seen in a TV show, because of all the implications of that. I have my criticisms with some of the directions that went with particularly with Caitlyn, but in terms of a cliffhanger that really had me feeling that, despite the insane cliffhanger of the end of episode 4, where you realize, well, I don't know, I think there are a lot of League players who knew already, but that Vander was Warwick and the Beast and all that.
Right.
That was gigantic. That was huge. But I felt something really unique at the end of episode 3.
That's a good answer. Mine, without question, was when episode 6 finished, bro.
Yeah.
I almost wanted to time travel. I wanted to time travel. I was like, yo, I need to get inside of Chrono Trigger, and I got to figure this out, man. We got to go into the future, dude. What those 3 episodes in particular, because like I said, I loved Isha and Jinx's relationship, and then we were really getting into the Vi stuff too. So like we're connecting the Vi stuff, then we're bringing Caitlyn into the picture as well, and we're really getting into the core of going back into episode 2 of this particular season. I couldn't believe that Jinx and Vi met up so early, right? So when you're starting to build all of that up, and you get into that second batch with 4, 5, and 6, I was like, holy sweet mother of Flagnards, man, what in the world's going on? And then it pops off with the end of episode 6. And it was just, oh my god, man, unreal. Another moment that I wanted to shout out, when Echo and Jinx show up to the final battle, that genuinely might be like the most goat raw fire universal language moment in all of Arcane, bro. I was going, bro, when the music started playing and Echo popped up, and then you have Jinx in like the coolest pose ever. I can't even. I have a bookmark on Twitter. I barely have any bookmarks on Twitter. It's only for stuff that I know I'm never gonna find ever again. And a lot of that stuff is like audience reactions to things. And so I found an audience reaction in Argentina for the moment when Jinx and Echo show up to the final battle, and it's like rent-free in my head because everyone just started going nuts, and I was like, yes, this is how I felt.
Oh, you got to send me the link to that.
Oh, I definitely got you. But yeah, man, it's I'm so glad you brought up Ambessa, by the way, because I think she was such an incredible part of this season that truly made it something really, really special, and I wasn't really expecting it. It felt natural, but at the same time, I really appreciated going back to her POV and seeing how things continued, even seeing how things that she was doing had a direct effect on the other POVs as well. I thought it was all extremely interesting. But do you have any other thoughts in regards to Arcane Season 2, favorite moment, certain things with certain characters, anything in particular?
Yeah, I actually, I guess two things. First, I want to talk about Ambessa a little bit. I guess Ambessa and Victor, because they end up being the two antagonists, basically, the two, the two main forces to fight at the end. I just love, like, there are a lot of things that you can, even the really good character arcs in Season 2, I think, have some sloppy moments, but Ambessa, to me, I don't think they put a foot wrong with her. I think she's amazingly voice acted, so dense psychologically, so layered and deep, the more you sort of parse out her words. Her moment where she tells Caitlyn that she is actually weak, and her inability to forgive and see hope in the world is, to me, like the missing puzzle piece of her character that clicked so many things for me. And I really think that Season 2 it's about a lot of things, but it questions the dualistic, paradoxical nature of humanity and how we are often our own worst enemy when it comes to our goals. We pursue things out of love and yet destroy so much because of that love. And sometimes it's self-destructive, and it's such an embodiment of Ambessa and Victor. And ultimately, I came to one of the biggest ideas I think that Season 2 gets across is that in order to keep going in a world that can sometimes be so dark and unfair and just difficult, you have to keep the faith in humanity, in spite of all evidence to the contrary, and you have to progress in spite of the negatives of the human condition. You can't shy away from it, and you've just got to just keep going. There's this Heimerdinger song in episode 7, where he just, in the lyrics, is something along the lines of "just keep moving on, my friends," or something like that. And that's the thing. That's what Jace does. That's what our protagonists do. Echo does it, Jace does it, Jinx does it, and Vi does it. And so I just think it's genius because if you look at the two antagonists, we have Ambessa, who, because of fear, Ambessa, despite being this almighty conqueror, is one of the most fearsome. Despite being fearsome, is one of the most afraid characters in the series. Afraid of loss. The reason she is the way she is, and she oppresses, is because she's scared to lose. But it's self-contradictory because that in turn puts that which she cares about in danger. I have a whole video about Ambessa where I talk about this stuff, but I just think that in general is really, really well done. And what she does is she doesn't confront the darkness of humanity and the vulnerabilities that she has. Instead, she shies away from it and avoids it by just trying to get stronger and stronger without confronting her insecurities and fears. Whereas someone like Jace absolutely faces all of his fears and is uncomfortable and scared by them, but nonetheless continues forward. Jinx, same thing. But Ambessa shies away from that. And likewise, and she uses power as a way to cope. And likewise, Victor avoids the paradoxical nature of humanity that he talks about at the end of episode 6. He looks at it as illogical when he's become possessed by all this power. And he doesn't avoid it because he doesn't avoid it because of fear necessarily in the same way that Ambessa does, but he just avoids it through becoming inhuman and seeing humanity as weakness and seeing his own disabilities, his leg, him being a cripple, as something to be ashamed of. And so how does he get above that? Same as Ambessa through amassing power, but more so omniscience and being above humanity in the way that he does in such an alien way. So I just think there's a really cool dualistic element to both of them in the way that they antithesize that theme. I think it's really clever. And the other thing I want to talk about is just really quickly, because I am, like you said, I am the Jace guy. I just got to do a quick Jace gush because man, I had no idea. You know, at the end of season 1, the council room gets a bazooka to the face, right? And it's like, what exactly is going to happen here? And I think it made sense to assume that the 3 major characters there would survive. And I think most thought that Caitlyn's mom had to die because there had to be some sort of consequence. But so I didn't think that Victor would die. I didn't think that Mel would die, and I didn't think that Jace would die either. But out of the 3, it felt, to me, the character who felt the most complete was Jace. And so I'm just like, I don't think they're going to kill him, but I don't exactly know where they're going to go with him. Because he has this great arc throughout season 1 of questioning himself and being malleable by people around him, and absolutely trying to do the right thing no matter what, through thinking every decision through with immense scrutiny and heart. When he ousts Heimerdinger, he does it with a heavy heart, and he thinks about it so much. Nothing is super impulsive until episode 8, which results in him killing a child, which then made him rethink so many things. But the point is, season 1 is this almost like I call it a pseudo-corruption arc, because it feels like any moment Jace is about to go dark side. He's about to go all the way to the point of no return. He's going to be corrupted by his power and the political realms he's maneuvering. But it never happens, because he always stays true to himself. Sometimes it leads to destruction, you know? But for better or worse, he is Jace, and he tries to be a good person. And what defines him is his faith in the life-saving power of Hextech and the arcane magic. What he does in season 2 is see the destruction it causes and choose to give it up. It's literally his life. He literally was about to end his life in season 1 because the council didn't like schedule him to be executed or anything, but just said that he was expelled and couldn't do his research anymore. That's how much magic means to him. And yet he gave it up because he realized that he was misled. And it's hard to articulate how admirable I find that, but he changed his entire life. He rethought his entire philosophy. He essentially made a whole new value system in such a short amount of time, and had to give up on something that his whole life, he's a 30-something-year-old man, had been about. And he does it, and he goes all the way with it. He becomes one of the biggest opposers to Hextech, despite loving it more than anyone in the start. So I just think there's something incredible about that. And then I love how it ends with him just kind of forgetting about everything and just wanting to be there for his partner and tell him that he is loved and that he is beautiful as he is, and there's nothing to be ashamed of, you know? I had to do a little Jace gush.
No, and I'm so glad you did, because that was definitely one of my favorite parts about that entire finale was, because obviously in season 1 that was like one of the best dynamics, and Arcane has a lot of godly dynamics, but that was like one of the like, holy flagnards, this is incredible. But to get that conclusion in season 2 with Victor and Jace was just sensational, and for all the reasons that you just mentioned. I'm so glad, bro. I've been wanting to hear your thoughts on this for so long. I'm just glad we finally got to do it. But yeah, man, shout out to Arcane. Both incredible seasons, and very much looking forward to seeing what they do in the future.
Yes.
With this universe that they're creating, because they already have my trust. I'm excited to see whatever in the world they have cooking in whatever other section of the universe that they want to explore next.
Yeah.
But speaking of universes, And speaking of long-running stories that go to other perspectives, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get into the trails greatness, man. Last time we left off, AJ had just finished experiencing Cold Steel 3 and Cold Steel 4 as we were heading into the Reverie greatness. AJ, man, it has been... I've spoken to you in DMs. I've heard you speak on it in streams as well as in a thread on your thoughts on the game. But talk to me, man. Trails into Reverie, the conclusion of both it's like the post Marineford where everything officially wraps up while also setting up the next section of the story. That of course we finish wrapping up the Azure section, or I'm sorry, the Crossbell section with the Lloyd plotline, and then we wrap up some more of the Cold Steel stuff with Reen, but tying it together as if it was always intended was the sea route that sort of serves like the thing that connects both the Cold Steel route and the Crossbell route. And so, talk to me about the greatness of Trails into Reverie, man.
Just to start off, I just want to give a shout out to one thing in particular that is really random, but that I loved so much to see, which is my man Kevin and my girl Reese in the background of the credits of wait, was that Cold Steel 4? That might have been Cold Steel 4.
Yeah,
actually.
That was Cold Steel 4.
Sorry, I'm mixing that up. Well, anyway, Cold Steel 4 is amazing too. So shout out to Cold Steel 4
That's right.
for giving me the crumbs of Kevin that I've been dying for ages. I need him back in the series. Reese too. Of course, they were in the Crossbell stuff, but it's been too long. I need them back.
Yeah.
So just quick shout out to that at the end of Cold Steel 4. I mixed it up with Reverie. But no, Reverie was so awesome, man. I had no idea what to expect. I see the cover, and it is, I can imagine who is on the cover. It's my favorite cover in the series, by the way. It's beautiful. But I'm just like, the tone of this is so weird. I'm used to these shonen-esque, everyone's posted up. We've got like 10 people on the cover about to fight, I didn't know what to expect given just the cover. But, man, it is such a creative celebration of Trails in the way that Trails the Third is and Cold Steel 4 is and Azure is, but at the same time examination of itself at the same time, because just the things they do with playing around with happy endings and the structure of it and perspective and the characters they put into the fore. It's so creative, it's so bold. That's one thing. Well, I love many things about Trails, but one thing that you always got to give the series is that, regardless, they are not afraid to change things up. When it comes to writing style, the way they approach certain themes, the way they recontextualize certain things, lots of things about the series stay the same. And at the same time, everything's changing at the same and Reverie was a great example of that, because when you finish, I guess, the prologue after exploring through Crossbell, and Rufus somehow is the big bad again, and then you see the credits in the midst of all that. You see the credits, and then it glitches, and someone is watching, and it's just like, what is going on? I had no idea what to do with any of that. I was so completely flabbergasted. I'm just like, but Rufus had his whole thing where he discovered how he was mistaken, and he wanted to atone and carry out Osborn's will and legacy. Like, what's going on? So I knew something was weird with that, because that was so out of character, but and I was trusting the process, but I didn't know what to do with it. Then the credits, someone's examining everyone, and then very soon you get to this new cast of C, and these it's funny, my girlfriend watches me play on my Steam Deck, and she just takes a glance at my Steam Deck while I'm playing, and in the pause menu when you see all the character models, I'm playing through Rufus C's route, and she just goes, when did Trails get full of VTubers? Because because they just look like a bunch of VTubers. I started laughing because they really do. Yeah. But so you get introduced to all these new characters in this route, and I was really excited for it because it was brand new. I had trust in it, but I didn't know exactly what to expect. I didn't know how good to expect it was. I was thinking maybe this will be just a fun like side route, and Lloyd and Reen will be the big ones. But man, to me, it's actually the most important one.
Definitely.
It's the most important one. And if I had to say that one character is the main character of Reverie, I think it's Rufus. I love what they do with perspective. I love that they have these different routes and the variability and flexibility to change them on the fly. I just tended to go until there was a stopping point, but I like the option anyway. And I really like that Reen is, in my opinion, the least important in terms of, I guess, overall weight out of the three, because he's just had his big arc and he's still important and he's still essential and we love him. But I think it was good that he took a bit of a sidestep. I really liked getting to know... okay, I don't know how I didn't mention this yet, but Lapis and Rufus have one of the best dynamics in the whole series. One of the
100%.
best relationships of what it means to just be and to exist and what it means to live. And the way her sort of childlike purity and innocence is so refreshing to Rufus and is such a breath of fresh air and makes him realize, maybe... his plan in Reverie is to kind of atone and right his wrongs, but he didn't see his life as worth much, especially in comparison to his brother. And she kind of helps him to see that. Lloyd kind of has the exclamation mark at the end, but she does the bulk of it. And likewise, he tells her that she is an individual in spite of her origin, that she is Lapis, and she should have pride in who she is and pride in her identity because she's a beautiful person. So it's just this beautiful give and take. That whole route is so cool, and it's so like I can't tell you how much I love this. This isn't an insult at all. It's so weird. It's so bizarre. It's so strange. Like my girlfriend looks at, like I said, my girlfriend looks at it and she goes, "Who is this party? You have this guy with a mask. You have this couple of VTubers, this edgy guy.
Yeah.
Who is this guy with looking at Arios? Like Arios is in there.
Yes.
Duvali's in there. Like what? Like Ren is in there. Like who are all these people? Like what a crazy party." So I just love how out there it is, and I love the Reverie corridor. The fragments are so so beautiful. I think they learned a lot from. I think they're great in third and like magnificent in third, but I think they polished them a bit, learned some things, and overall are a bit better in Reverie. And we get the liberation of Crossbell that we've been long awaiting, and it's so gratifying for all the Crossbell crew. Love that we get Lloyd focus again, and love how the SSS kind of realizes that they weren't really acting with their heart, and more so thinking about what they should do, and the reputation that they have, and kind of acting off of that. And I really like. It's not something I thought about, but it was a really cool thing to examine. And then Reen and Ishmelga Reen, despite me saying, like I said, I think Reen is the least important of the three very important protagonists, but that is the missing piece of Reen I had been wanting since Cold Steel 1. And I loved what he had in Cold Steel 2. I absolutely adored it, but there was still something missing for me. And I'm just like, I need this guy to realize all the people that he's hurt through his his lack of self-worth, and the way that he constantly sacrifices himself, because he realizes it, and I think it's great because he sees it in Crow. He sees what he does to other people through what Crow does to him in Cold Steel 3 and 4. The way Crow jumps into danger and self-sacrifices, and he sees his hypocrisy, but he doesn't really address it. And this game has him addressing it through a literal AU version of himself that died and sacrificed himself for others. And it wasn't this beautiful miracle. It wasn't a happy ending. He is miserable. He is tormented. It isn't something to be admired. To have, like, sometimes it is. Sometimes self-sacrifice can be admired, but it gets to a point where Reen had such a complex about it that it's just like, the people around you are not going to thank you about that. They want you to love yourself in the way they love you. And to have Reen, through literally himself, this suffering AU version of himself to realize that and to talk to him in this realm inside his mind. It was my favorite Rean moment of the entire series, and it properly solidified him as like a JRPG classic character. It was the missing piece, like I said. And if I can't wait to see Rean in the future. I'm sure we'll see him again. Maybe not as the focus, but just to see him again. And I can't wait to see how he's started living his life in a different way. So I love that as well. So that was a huge jumble. Sorry, but
I loved it, dude. I was smiling from ear to ear.
It's kind of Reverie is kind of a jumble anyway, a jumble of peak, and so yeah, that's a lot of my thoughts on it.
Dude, first and foremost, like I said, I'm smiling from ear to ear. God bless your soul for for that entire jumble. To go into your Rean point, I think it's so important. That like I was telling you in the DMs in regards to his role in this game, I think it is so cool on behalf of the creators for them to realize that throughout the entirety of Cold Steel 1 through 4, you had a character that was at the center of the most large-scale thing imaginable, and at the core of that large-scale conflict was his own personal stuff. So he had to deal with his personal stuff and large-scale stuff at the same exact time with his relationship with Osborn, the curse, how that directly affected him to the point where he had to confront himself several times. And it was always large-scale. Every single time he had to confront himself, it was always large-scale, which is why I appreciated when Reverie turned that on its head and made it extremely small-scale, the smallest scale possible, where it was just him and himself. And he truly had to, even though, of course, the fate of many different things were on the line, but at the end of the day, when everyone else, basically, in the series, minus Kevin and Reese, because they keep forgetting about the goats, was there in that moment at the end of Reverie, it really came down to the two of them. And the conversation that Rean had to have with himself. And it elevated Cold Steel 4 for me, because now I can go back and go through that game and live through the fact that these two endings do lead to something in the future, and at least to my favorite moment in the series, like you were just alluding to with Rean there, and one that really, really personally impacted me. But one thing I want to discuss is the dynamic and the parallels, the idea of Rufus and Rean, and why I'm so glad that the game starts off with Crossbell is currently doing their thing. They have to deal with this Rufus that they don't know what to do with. They have once again been oppressed, and there's certain things that these individuals have to take care of, and they're going to have to reach out to the characters that are in the other routes eventually. But what I love so much about the C and Rean route, when it's in the first two chapters in particular, is that everything that one does directly affects the other, to the point to where you have to switch routes at one point because you have to see it from the other perspective. They are completely intertwined. And that's exactly how I feel about Rean and Rufus's character arcs. Because what you have with the Osborn door at the end of this game is representation of how Osborn viewed Rufus and how Osborn viewed Rean. And these two individuals that, due to this father figure, that one came to his life way later on, and the other one was his main central father figure for a very long time, we were able to see how that had a direct effect on both of their lives. And when both of them have to confront themselves in this game, another version of themselves, with an AI version in Rufus and an alternate reality version in Rean, it's so incredibly cool to me that back in Cold Steel 4, the individuals that saved Rean were New Class 7, and in this game, the individuals that saved Rufus from attempting to sacrifice himself, similar to what Rean attempted to do at the end of Cold Steel 4, is the Picnic Squad, as well as Lloyd, being like, I'm not going to let you get out of that so easily. Like, in probably Lloyd's greatest moment there as well. And what a spectacular route the Lloyd route was. But I just really appreciated how consistent they were with both Rean and Rufus. And when I finished Reverie, and I did a complete playthrough again of Cold Steel 1 all the way to Reverie, I came to just truly love Rufus because of the idea of this son, Osborn, of course, knowing his backstory and everything that's taken place with him and all of the years of suffering that he's endured. But the character, the individual he loved the most, he was not able to quote unquote be there for the. He was always looking after him, as we saw through the Osborn door. But he was always looking at it from afar. And then he had another son that he took in that he always kept so near and dear. And I think when you look at the way that Rean views New Class 7 and also the way that Rufus views the Picnic Squad and Loppies, it just makes those two, the Osborn and Rean and Rufus tree, as well as the Rean New Class 7 and Rufus and Loppies and the Picnic Squad tree, it just makes that entire thing so incredibly beautiful to me because they understand the necessities of that teacher, father-like figure in the lives of others. And what's so beautiful is, for Rean and Rufus, they're trying so hard to do things on their own, they don't realize the ones that are actually saving them are those around them. And it's just, I love the parallels between those two journeys, and I think they cooked so hard with Rufus. I couldn't agree with you more in regards to Rufus being the number one guy in this game, and I think that's important because going into a brand new saga, leading us into the future of the series, it was important to let us know that yes, even though we're concluding the Lloyd and Rean section of this, we can even take a character like Rufus that served as a central antagonist from Cold Steel 2 onwards. We can even take him, give him a brand new squad, make you love these characters as much as you do the other characters you've known for that amount of time in a single game. It just made me be like, oh my god, man, I can't wait till we get to the next arc. And it's what a special video game. The doors that they implemented. I love the SSS door when you go around Crossspell and it feels just like it's Trails from Zero.
Yeah.
It's so incredibly special. When you go around with the Liberal gang in their door, it's so nostalgic. Seeing the build up to the wedding between Olivier and Shara. All of the Class 7 doors, some of them are really funny, others are really emotional. Rean's doors are super cool. But then you get into the final couple of doors that are your hints, your threads, as Ichiro Oda would do at the end of his post arcs. They make you super excited for the next arc. Kondo and the squad put 3 particular post arc stories that sort of serve like visual novels. Where we go on the Rean version of this, the Ren version of this, and the wait. How far are you in Daybreak? Before I say what
I'm far enough so that I'd like to talk about it a little bit when we're done with Reverie. I'm like midway through chapter 4.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah,
then that works. I was gonna say the Van and flipping Elaine door, even though we didn't know their names at the time.
Mm-hmm, yes.
But those three, the way that those 3 particular doors lead us into the Calvard saga, get us excited for the Calvard saga, it was just so well done. And I can't tell you the amount of times I went through those doors just waiting for Daybreak to come out. And so it's like Daybreak's like the perfect game that encapsulates everything about the legacy of Trails, while at the same time getting you so excited for the future. And it's just what a magical game, man. Trails into Reverie. Yeah,
it's and just to reiterate, because I gushed about Rufus, but I do want to just really re-emphasize, because it was, like I said, it was a huge jumble of stuff, and I talked about a lot of stuff, but Rufus is my favorite thing about Reverie. I go back and forth. It's in my top 3 for sure, probably top 2. Some days it's my favorite. Regardless, it's one of the best Trails games for sure for me. And Rufus is my favorite thing about it. I just can't get over how they took a already great character in Rufus and went, you know what, we can really make him really special, like super special. And yeah, like you said, in one game, they take this idea of him and this atonement that he wants to do and the type of person he wants to be. In one game, they make him, in my opinion, on the level of Estelle or Reen or Lloyd.
Yeah.
Like, he's right up there with the best of them. I think he's right up there. And like you said, the dynamic with Reen is so cleanly written. It's so tight. It's so... It actually, we were just talking about Arcane Season 1 and how everything's so planned out. The writing in Reverie reminds me a lot of Arcane Season 1 in terms of how they use their characters and the dynamics and all of that. Like, there's the moment where he confronts the AI Rufus and says that that Rufus is him and not him. And he says that the AI Rufus is frozen in time, but he is here in the present. And that he moved past all the things that this AI Rufus is so dead set on. It's just a beautiful way to sum up all that he is and the beauty of the character. And yeah, he was... And the last thing is him through Lapis and Lloyd realizing that not only can he atone and right his wrongs, or maybe not right his wrongs, but like I said, atone and compensate and do with what he can do good now, but he can still live. He can still have a life, and there's something so beautiful about that. And was there anything else? I don't know. There's just so much to talk about with Reverie, but there's so many great lines from Rufus to his other self, and yeah, I don't know. Reverie was so fantastic and such a great, I guess, transition point while also being a conclusion too. It's so awesome.
If I could ask a gameplay question, whenever you were in like the final stretches of the Reverie corridor, was there like a particular party that you kept going back to?
Yes, when it comes to games, I usually do. I usually go with story relevance more so than gameplay, even if it makes it tough on me for gameplay. So I had a core, I don't know, a core 10 to 15 maybe that I'd rotate around, and Rufus always had to be in the party. A lot of times I wanted Eustace to be there with him, because also shout out to Eustace, because if I just sidetrack for a second, one of my criticisms of Cold Steel 4 is like I love that it's like the everyone's here of Trails, and you're going through a dungeon and there's like a party of 30, and it's like, oh my god, this is so awesome. But sometimes that means that some characters are kind of a bit stagnant or don't get a lot to do, you know? But that is never the case with Eustace. Eustace is consistently amazing and consistently growing and being fleshed out. His relationship with Milliam and now his dynamic with Rufus in Reverie, like, he is amazing. He's one of my favorite characters. So I always had Rufus. I often had Eustace. Reen and Lloyd, of course. I for some reason, I really liked to have... obviously Lapis as well. And I really liked having Duvalie in the party. I just love the idea. She's great. She's great in terms of gameplay, but I just love the idea of her just kind of doing her own thing and trying to prove herself and just having these motives that more or less line up with our protagonist, but she's kind of just there vibing in her really cute, funny, Tsundere-esque way. And yeah, Estelle and Joshua always filled in a little bit. So it was mostly about story relevance and just what I was feeling at the time. I also I had this internal headcanon thing with Laura being able to fight with her dad. So I paired them together a lot as well. Nice. So that was fun. Yeah.
I did the same thing with Emma and Vita quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
Because ever since Cold Steel 1, I've always loved Emma's moveset, which is why she's always, if not in the first party, she'll be in the second party that comes in to as backup, because her moveset is just so incredible. But dude, I can't even lie to you. Coming off of the end of Cold Steel 4 and just being so in love with the main protagonists can actually be in a party together, and I was so obsessed with that. When I started playing Reverie, and for so long, I just kept running the Estelle, Reen, Rufus, and Lloyd lineup.
That's definitely what your heart pleads for immediately.
Yeah, I was like, I have to do this, man. The moment I got access to all those characters, I was like, yeah, I gotta do this. And then, obviously, once I unlocked, like, McBurn and all, like, the super OP characters, I was like, all right, I gotta use them. And those are, like, dream characters. You know?
Yeah.
And so, I definitely had to put them in there. But yeah, man, any final thoughts on Trails into Reverie? Anything in regards to the Grandmaster and certain things that was like potentially being led to there. Because I know when I finished Trails into Reverie, especially in the build up to Daybreak, I kept going back to the end of Cold Steel 4 and Reverie in regards to the conversations that the Grandmaster would have and be like, what in the flying flatter is going on with this character and with what they're doing? So just like any final thoughts in general in regards to Reverie.
Yeah, I find it's all I liked it because I feel like the series hadn't gotten super deep into that stuff for a while. So it was great to have that back, and I really do. It's a sort of theorizing. So if we theorize about Rebirth, I have very distinct, concrete theories about where certain things are going. But when it comes to Trails, when it comes to the Grandmaster specifically, I really am kind of at a loss. And at first I was just like, okay, let's maybe try to figure this out. Like Umineko-esque, put the lines together and really try to do that. But then I kind of realized that I actually really enjoy being in the dark with this one. I really enjoy the mystique and not knowing. And to me, I think of the Grandmaster, and there is this obvious scope to it, this universe-defining scope, and there's also, I don't know, a bit of a sadness to her, maybe to do with her motives and her being at the core of this universe, and maybe some sort of past profound sadness that defines her actions in the now. I've always felt that, even when just hearing about her and indirectly learning about her, and that definitely continued through the bit we get at the end of Reverie. I don't have anything super specific or concrete, but just this appreciation for the great plot hook that she is in an overarching way, as well as what she evokes in me, which, like I said, is this weird melancholy and sadness that is so enticing to me. So I'm glad to really feel that and for it to continue to I guess, guide my way through the series.
Absolutely. No, yeah, I'm right there with you in regards to the Grandmaster. Very, very emu coded. You know what I mean? Just like this presence that you just can't help but I feel like, man, I feel like you're going to represent the series at some point. You know, it's a super interesting thing. All right, so we just finished talking about a game that is obviously extremely special to both of us. But now we're going to talk about another one that is within the same series, but follows a brand new protagonist in a brand new arc. One that was just as heavily as built up as Erebonia, all the way back in Liberl. Every time you would go to those two doors in the royal capital, when you were there with Chloe, and you would look to the left, and you would see the Erebonian embassy. You go to the right, and you would see the Calvardian embassy. Trails Through Daybreak introduces us to my second favorite pair of characters in the series, right after Reen, is my boy Van Mother flipping Arkwright, man. Listen, I love Van and Anya so much, and they both share my second, the number 2 spot for my favorite Trails characters, because there's something really beautiful about having a Gintoki-esque character in a series like this. I feel like you're able to add so much value to side quests, similar to why Yakuza side quests are so special, because it approaches it in that type of episodic manner. But when you get something like that in Daybreak, which is obviously taking the very best from the Crossbell saga with its side quests, which were all centered in the same place, which makes you really connected to the cast that's there within Crossbell, because it is such a small town. You get to learn the individuals there, you get to meet the individuals there, and because of that, it makes it feel much more personal. And Calvard feels very much the same, by taking the very best elements of the how personal that feels, while taking like the large scope, really cool way of tackling certain different ways of like classism and things of that nature, the way that Cold Steel does. And it takes both of those things and just creates something brand new with the Calvard saga. And I think they chose the perfect protagonist to tell that story through. And you have no idea what it meant to me for you to be so early in Daybreak, and I saw him in your honorable mentions in the favorite protagonist video. I was like, oh my god, my boy Van Arkwright. And so I gotta ask your thoughts on Daybreak so far, if there's like any standout things to you up until this point, as well as how you feel about the changes to the game's combat system, which is obviously a huge, a very different thing that they implemented and honestly felt pretty revolutionary. I was like, oh my god, I've never really played anything like this whenever I started. So just your overall thoughts on Daybreak 1 up until this point.
Yeah, in terms of the combat, I really admire the direction they went with it, because we were talking about risks in the series. I mostly meant that on a narrative level, but this is a big change, the way they implement all this, the real time, the different sort of dynamic way that combat flows, which is very, I mean, you got all the same I guess core elements, but it flows and it's structured in a totally different way. And I really enjoy it. It's so many things are added, so many things. Sometimes if I'm just, for one reason or another, not feeling like getting into a fight, I just do a super long real-time combat, just like battle outside of it, and outside of.
I do the same.
Like I don't know. And that's. I mean, it's not super in depth or anything. It is what it is. But I like that the option's there, and I love all the layers to it. It actually reminds me what they did with Daybreak's combat is. I have generally heard that in Daybreak 2, they expand upon it and maybe polish some things. Mm-hmm. But what I generally think about Daybreak's combat is that it reminds me a lot of how Infinite Wealth built upon Yakuza 7's combat. They just they make it more dynamic. They add a bunch of new little touches that all added together make it feel, more. I don't know the word for it, but it just flows really, really well. It just feels good. And yeah, I'm generally a big fan of it, and I've been having fun throughout my whole playthrough. I'm 55 to 60 hours in, and I haven't got tired of it. And I'm looking forward to see where they go with it in the rest of the for the future going forward. Yeah, I really like it. And in terms of the story, just generally, so Reverie was an ending and a transition point and like a pivot point. So what I was looking for in Daybreak was just, it felt like in the series it had been forever since we had just a clean, fresh slate. It's never going to be, it's never going to be a completely fresh start from zero, but it's as close to one as you can get in this series before they start, giving you other characters that you know and love. And I absolutely love the approach with Daybreak because they have such confidence in their cast, in the world, the hub world, and the character dynamics and the plot, that even if the plot can be quite slow in terms of just pacing, quite leisurely, but they have such confidence and in the richness of the story and the characters within it that they really just drop you in this world and are confident that you're going to love your time there and love your time with the characters. And I absolutely do. If I had one word for Daybreak, it would be that it's super refreshing. It's just so refreshing in so many ways. Even the story, the approach to dialogue is different. The character writing of the dialogue is different. The character writing of Vaughn is so different from every protagonist
100%.
And any other character, full stop, in the series. And it's so refreshing. I love him. Obviously, I think from the moment you see him, there are Gintoki parallels. I think there's a clear inspiration there. But he absolutely has his own identity, and he's voiced. But the moment I heard Battler's voice come out of him, I'm like, oh my god, it's over.
Same.
It's over.
Bro, I remember the magazine articles leading up to this game's release when they first revealed the voice actor. Everybody was like, oh my god, it's Battler's voice. I was like, there's no way that a protagonist in Trail is going to be voiced by Yoshinobu Battler, bro. There's no way.
Insane. So I was already predisposed to love him. But you give me the voice of Battler, so many parallels with Gintoki, and then just these very specific Trails elements, and then just all that Van is as a person and his relationships. I love him, man. I just love hearing him talk, hearing him interact with all these people. He has that sort of really kind of rough around the edges exterior, but you can it's a thin veneer, and everyone around him can tell that he values his connections so much. I just got to this conversation with, or no, it wasn't recently, but it wasn't too long ago in the plot. It was last month or something, but I took a break from Daybreak for a game we'll talk about in a bit. But I just had this conversation with Ren, where you learn that him and Ren actually had this prior relationship where he really supported her. And he talks about how great it is to see Ren become her own person and stand on her own 2 feet, and that it's great that she's now not struggling anymore and she's been able to live life properly with love. And that's beautiful, but she supports him just as much, if not more, in this moment, where she goes, like, in her sort of playful way, but then gets very serious and just kind of talks about how, you play your own. It's kind of, there's a bit of a similarity with Reen in that he downplays his own importance.
Yes.
But in a very different way. Because Ren just goes like, yeah, you joke around about not helping me out much or not being that important, but the people around, like, it is not a coincidence that you have all these people around you willing to support you, from your past, from your present, across the world. It's just the type of person he is. He's someone who cares and who will do so much for the people he cares about, just covered in layers of kind of a pseudo-cynicism, a bit of a weathered touch to him. He feels just older, despite being, 24. 24 is not old.
Yeah,
but
he's only 24.
He's only 24. Aaron always calls him a grandpa, which I love. But no, he genuinely feels he's by far the most mature Trails protagonist in that way. But so at the same time has a lot of growing to do at this, and the way he navigates his relationships, and so much of the game has been just learning who he is, but he hasn't really progressed much. And I can't wait to see when he actually gets to big moments where you see the payoff of the bonds that he's formed, where you understand more specificity of why he is so weathered. Because at this point in the story, I've gotten hints. I don't really know about exactly what's gone on in the past with him and Elaine years back. So I think he is the greatest triumph of the game, because to start a new arc, you want to be hooked on something, and he's like, the moment I saw him, I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna follow this guy anywhere. I immediately love him. I know so little about him, but just his personality and the way he interacts with everything around him is so enticing. So I love him. I love Van, and I can't wait to see where he goes. Like, I love him this much, and we haven't even really gotten the bulk of his character journey. Outside of these illusions about valuing the people around him, and despite his outward exterior and the talk with Ren and stuff like that. So I love him. I really like the party. I love Agnes, Aaron. We just met Rosette semi-recently. Fairy's cool, and there's this intrigue with the antagonist, which is really good. Hearing Kuroda being someone other than Kiryu for the first time in a while was crazy, but I'm really interested in his character. The plot's really interesting, and like I said, it's a slow burn, but it's a great slow burn. And but outside of Van, my favorite thing about this game is the world. I love the hub worlds of Edith and all the towns. There's so much. This is, despite, Crossbell was my favorite setting, and it still is my favorite setting in terms of the thematics within it. And I love exploring it as well. And I love exploring Erebonia. We've talked so much about Leaves being home, and that's still very much the case. But there's something about the way that the world is constructed in Daybreak that I I can't get enough of it. I'm so immersed. I have so much fun. You know those really cozy, rainy nights where
Yes.
where Van's just on his own and the party is staying in, and he goes, "Okay, let's check out the town." I just spend 3 to 4 hours just walking around, taking in the music, the rain, talking to NPCs, bonding, just exploring. That is
Yes.
my favorite stuff in Daybreak is just to walk around, the town and see this world. And that's one of my favorite things in video games is to just lose yourself and forget that you're playing and just be this character in this world. And this is my favorite Trails game in terms of that aspect of it. And I couldn't, like, altogether, my main two takeaways are Van and the setting and the immersion. But everything else around that is so great too, and I can't wait to see what the story's building towards as well. So it's a great... I don't know how much of the game is left. I imagine I'm in the second half and maybe the last third. But I can't wait to see where the story goes when we get into the more climactic stuff, because everything up till it has been an absolute home run.
Dude. Oh, man, I'm so happy. Like, it's, just being able to say AJ has finally gotten to the Calvert arc in of itself is just an awesome thing. But to be able to have you talking about everything that you've talked about so far is just it's just a real treat for me, man. Like, it's like you're almost caught up to Trails, which is absolutely insane. Like, holy flagnards. But I'm so glad the Van is resonating with you, and the setting, because I'm right there with you. Those were also my two hooks when I was going through the game as well. But I'm so glad that you brought up the Ren connection, because she's always felt like the heart and soul of the series, that the glue that sort of keeps so much of the thing running in the background. But for her to have such a prominent role in this particular installment again, and getting to see like a different side of how you can approach a character like that in a long running series, and when you get that moment with her and Van, and there's like this particular screenshot which was rent-free for me for so long. That's whenever he leans over and he's like patting her on the head. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like, it's like a
Yes.
It's like the old in Daybreak they take like the Cold Steel 3, Cold Steel 4 approach. Whenever they go into like a flashback sequence, it'll have like this really cool art in the back, and it had that for Van and Ren in that particular moment, and that was just so rent-free for me because I was like, wow, man. Like, it goes all the way back then, and it's just I love so much about that game, and I absolutely adore the cast of Calvert. They're so much fun, and I'm so excited to see how you feel about the rest of the game and the rest of the arc as well. But man, dude, it is time, man. Both of us just recently finished this. I finished it a little bit after our Bleach podcast.
Actually, sorry, if I could really quickly interrupt before we get into this.
Okay.
I have because this is going to be the bulk of the rest of the talk. Before we get into this, could I just quickly ask you, because in our Bleach talk that we did, you mentioned you had started Black Sails. I was wondering if you had watched past the first episode, and if so, any thoughts you might have, or how far you've gotten, or just generally where you're at with the series, because I've been dying for an update.
So the main reason, unfortunately, why there hasn't been an update is because I haven't watched anything past the first episode.
Okay.
But I'll give you something else that I have been playing.
Okay.
I'm about 30% through Xenoblade Chronicles 1.
No way! Oh my. Okay, well that's great.
So I want let me go ahead and talk about that. Well, first and foremost, when it comes to Black Sails, so Black Sails, I watched the first episode, and it was so absolutely incredible that I immediately started. That was around whenever I was really like locked in on Expedition 33, like I was telling you in the Bleach podcast, where I was like, man, I'm super locked into this game. And then after I played Expedition 33, to fill the hole in my heart, I started playing 100 Line Last Defense Academy, which I'm still playing, and I'm absolutely adoring it.
Oh.
But in the middle of that playthrough, there was something in the back of my head that was like, man, I need to get back to Xenosaga. I need to get back to Xenoblade. And then whenever you did your list and you were talking about Xenoblade, I was like, sweet mother of Flagnards, man. And in the midst of this, I was checking out Xenosaga 2 again because I was continuing it and I really wanted to get through it. And I was like, you know what, man? I'm going to do something that I was not planning on doing originally, but I can't hold it in anymore. And because the games are set within their own universes, and different aspects of it can be interpreted in different times. Like, for example, I know that you haven't played Xenogears yet. Xenogears was my first introduction into the Xeno franchise. I was like, you know what? Screw it all. I want to play Xenoblade Chronicles 1.
That's crazy.
And I was like, after I finish Xenoblade 1, I'm either going to go to Xenoblade 2 or I'm going to go back to Xenosaga 2 to finish it, because I feel like I just needed a break from that game. Not because I wasn't enjoying. I love the story. It's just the gameplay in that game is so different from Xenosaga 1 that it's a tough thing to grab a hold onto. And so on the opposing side of that, though, because I've been using my Switch so much because of how much I've had to leave the house, I've been going between 100 Line Last Defense Academy and Xenoblade Chronicles 1. And AJ, bro, let me tell you something, dude. You talked about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth having towns that are absolutely legendary, which I agree with 100%. But, bro, there is something about the Xenoblade Chronicles towns that are really speaking to you, boy, man. I rock with the music of this game. I rock with the parties of this game. Yeah. I rock with finally being able to add context to the Monado, the idea of the Monado, the idea of Shulk. The prologue of this game had me shook, bro. I was like, what in the world is going on?
Oh, yeah.
And then to go on from that to where I am now, which is... let me pull out the Switch right now. Oh, it's almost dead. But I want to say I haven't even reached the half point of the game yet. But what's really been speaking to me so far is how much I've been attached to the party. I've really been appreciating what this game is doing with making me really care about the main party, while at the same time having these mysteries in the background where I can't wait to find out more, knowing how Tetsuya Takahashi handled Xenogears and Xenosaga 1, knowing all of the things that he explores in regards to psychology, philosophy. Of course, Yoko Taro is very similar with Nier Automata. But to know how deep that is into Tetsuya Takahashi as a creator, that's what I'm most interested in seeing, how that's explored within Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3. And obviously when I go back to Xenosaga. So... yeah, I guess you asked for Black Sails, but I came back at you with Xenoblade.
That's so incredible. Every time we talk, there's a new... You surprise me with Rakugo, then you surprise me with Black Sails, and now Xeno... That's incredible. So, just to get... Because I want to just talk a little bit about it, but just to know, what's the last thing that happened in the story, if you remember? Or, like, what's the location you're at?
So, hold on, I'm going to close 100 Line. Because I'm so bad with names, and I just came off of Vagabond Reread, which just disturbed my mind.
No worries. I want to try out 100 Line on stream one day, by the way.
Dude, I love it, man. Have you played Danganronpa or 999?
I've played all of Danganronpa, and I've played not played 999, but I played Somnium Files. So I'm familiar with both Uchikoshi and Kodaka.
So before I bought it, I did not even know that it was a collaboration between both of them.
Oh.
I just got into it because I was like, oh, it's the art style from the I'm on chapter 8 in the Aerith Sea.
Okay. Okay. So you just entered Aerith Sea?
Yes, I'm 27 hours in to the game.
So I know exactly what I can talk about. Okay, sorry, continue then.
Yeah, no. So, bro, once again, bro, look at the way this game looks, dude. I don't know how this game looked back on the Wii, but I really like the way this game looks, man. It just looks so cool. But yeah, going into so like right now in the main party, right, I have Shulk, Rain, and Riki, and I really love Dunban and Sharla as well. I think I just really appreciate what the game has been doing, both from differentiating them from just like a gameplay standpoint, but also from like a storytelling perspective as well. But I just really love Riki, man. Like Riki reminds me so much of a character from Xenogears. Like whenever you get the opportunity to play that game, it's like a character like Riki in that game that just I was like, I gotta have this character in the party at some point. And so I'm glad it was here right now. But yeah, man, it's just going back to the 100 line thing. I was just enjoying that game so much, and I wanted to savor it because I'm about to have to leave for a little while to go on the road, and I was like, I gotta keep at the very least some parts of this game left so that I can take it with me. And then I was like, you know what, I'll just try out Xenoblade so I can have it on the side. Then I got hooked on Xenoblade, so now I have 2 games to go out and take with me. But yeah, dude, I'm just going back to Xenoblade. I'm in awe of Tetsuya Takahashi as a creator. Very similar to Yoko Taro. I think the way, now that I've seen the introductory sequences of his initial work with Xenogears, Xenosaga Episode 1, and I like I said, I can't wait to go back and finish 2 and 3. But then to see the next reinvention of himself with Xenoblade 1 so far, I'm in awe of a creator who is constantly reinventing themselves while staying true to something they're so passionate about. In this particular case, it's JRPGs. And so I'm so curious on whenever you get the opportunity to go back to experience Xenogears, because Xenoblade 1 was your first experience, right, with Xeno?
Yeah, I've played roughly 10 to 15 hours of Xenogears a long time ago, and I'm going to revisit it. When I revisit it, I'm going to start from the beginning. But yeah, my first was Xenoblade, yeah. Okay,
yeah, because it's been so unique for me to have this particular perspective, because honestly, it's I thought it was going to take away from it, but in all honesty, it's making me appreciate it so much more, because I can look at it the same way I look at like Akira Toriyama, for example, and I was able to look at Dr. Slump, Dragon Ball, and then Sandland, and being like, man, you know what? This was him at these different particular points, just using him as an example, or like Yoshihiro Togashi, being like, okay, he created level Yu Yu Hakusho level E, and then Hunter x Hunter, and seeing how he was as a creator throughout all those points when there's certain things that are intertwined in all those works. And it's been so cool just seeing Tetsuya Takahashi in this particular in this way. And so I have to give so much love to Xenoblade. I wasn't going to tell you until I finished the game, but since we're here, I'm rocking with it a lot, man. And I appreciate you, number one, for the recommendation as always, but number two, for your unbridled passion for Xenoblade, because I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it so far. Shout out to Xenoblade, man.
That's so great, because I mean, I'm not surprised, because I know your tastes, and Xenoblade is like make a Recon video game in a lab to appeal to everything he likes, and it's Xenoblade. It's very similar to other favorites of yours. It's very similar to Final Fantasy in lots of ways. I think I'm not even a big Kingdom Hearts fan, but I think it's very similar to Kingdom Hearts and has a lot of the same appeal in a lot of ways. It's very cool the way you're viewing it from that sort of creator-centric lens, because when I first played it, I didn't care about that at all. I just like a vast epic adventure. Okay, let's check it out. Just to talk a little bit about what you played, because I have, this is my favorite game to talk about with people who are playing it for the first time and to watch people react to. Like if a streamer I even a little bit know about starts playing Xenoblade, I watch it. If I see a playthrough on YouTube, I watch it, because it's just the twists and turns of the plot, the emotions, the character moments. It's just so. It is to me in that way the Attack on Titan of video games, in that it is just the most reactable and fun, just journey of a story. And it starts right from the beginning. I don't know how you felt about the first few minutes, but. You have Dunban, and then it's the Battle of Sword Valley, and it just you just see
Yes.
him charging forward. He's there with his two friends, Dixon and Mumcar. Mumcar runs away and gets shot down, but and then he runs forward, charging in with the Monado, and the camera zooms out, and the music is just swelling, and you see the vastness of the setting as the camera zooms out, and you see the twists and turns of the Bionis, and you come out, and then you see both Titans locked in this eternal stance against each other.
Yes.
That is
Yes.
the biggest. That is one of the greatest hooks I've seen in anything in my life. And that is exactly why I talk about the best beginnings to video games. I talk about FF7, Remake and Rebirth as well. Xenoblade is right there with them in terms of just hooking you in the first few minutes. But then if you take that out even further, you got... when I played it, so I don't know if you know this, a lot of people don't tend to because there's the definitive version, but in the original Wii version, there were no chapters. So I don't... Like, people tell me which chapter they're on, and I'm just like... I don't know where that is because I never had chapters. But I think the end of the prologue is the end of the first two chapters. Basically, what I consider the prologue of the story, which is basically the death of Fiora and then them setting out. That's the end of, I think, chapter 2, right?
So yeah, in this game, it is the end of chapter 2.
Okay, so I consider that like the prologue of the game, and that is one of the strongest starts to a story you could ever ask
100%.
for. It's so
100%.
unbelievable. It establishes Shulk so beautifully. The voice acting for Shulk as he's screaming for Fiora. Ryan's great. Dunban is this awesome sort of older head, this veteran mentor, kind of similar-ish to like a little bit of Cassius, you know?
Yes.
And then from there, you just explore all these unbelievably... You mentioned the towns. These vast lands as you explore these titans. You go to the Bionis Knee and you look across and you can see Mechonis. And it's just so... The scope of that is incredible.
So cool, dude.
Yeah, and then you go through the mines. You go through... You save Juju. You meet Charlotte. You save Juju. And then you fight Zord and you learn about how they're humans with past lives in these...
Yep.
And you're like, huh, interesting. And then you escape, and then you think you're done this section of the story, and then you're mobbed by a bunch of Zords, and this metal monstrosity that starts talking to you and taunting you about Fiora's death, and then Dunban and Dixon come, and you fight that off, and then you go into Satoral Marsh, one of the most beautiful locations, and then you go through the Bionis, and then into Machna Forest, the Forest of the Nopon, which is one of my favorite like jungle forest locations in a game. The music's incredible. I use it all the time. Frontier Village with all the Nopon and Ricky. You get to know Melia, and then you go to Erithsea. All these mysteries and all this intrigue all gathers pace, and it just keeps you guessing. And the characters are great. It's just the optimal adventure story journey. I can't really speak much about it because a lot of it still has to come with what you have to play. But I'm just so glad you're enjoying it, and I'm so like this is one of the games closest to my heart. I'm so passionate about it. So it's just great. It's just great to see you enjoying it, and that all the big selling points of it appeal so directly to you.
Absolutely, and I'm so glad that you brought up the adventure aspect because coming off of Expedition 33 and the adventure that game was, I really needed that again. I was looking for that classic JRPG adventure once more. And I remembered at the end of last year when I played the Dragon Quest III remake, I was thinking to myself, man, I would really love another game where it's just the gang going out and exploring, obviously with a huge overarching plot, but coming off of a year that gave me like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, for example, and then Dragon Quest III remake, which allowed me to go out and explore the world the way that it did. I was like, man, I really want another game like this. And then I got Expedition 33, which obviously allows you to do that, and that was such a major thing that made that game just so addicting for me. But then coming into this one, it's so cool because once again, going into Tetsuya Takahashi, it's like taking so many of the things that he loves about those classic JRPGs, and you're just seeing it at the forefront here with this game, and I first and foremost, in regards to the combat system, as just a real quick question, does the combat system remain the same for the 3 entries, or does it evolve kind of like it does in Xenosaga, or so far in Xenosaga, or like Trails, for example?
Yeah, I think Trails is a good comparison. So I think the core, I guess, idea behind the system stays pretty similar, but it definitely varies up. It definitely gets added to, gets new complexities added to. So you'll have a fresh experience with 2 and 3. Like each game has a different combat system. Lots of people tend to prefer 2s and 3s to 1s, especially.
Okay.
In my experience, 2 and 3 especially in terms of combat, or like particularly in terms of combat, people prefer to 1. For me, I absolutely adore 1's combat, and the stuff that was added to it actually just kind of ended up being, not that there's any big flaws or anything, but kind of just ended up being a if it ain't fixed, don't broke it sort of situation for me. So because they were different, I enjoy them slightly less. But all 3 have great gameplay, and most people you ask will say that it gets better.
Okay, perfect.
And like I said, they're quite different from one another.
Right. I think one of the things that it reminds me of is a little bit of how I approach Monster Hunter in regards to the combat system there, which I never would have expected to feel that way while playing a JRPG, but it's so cool. I appreciate when a game makes me want to enter combat again. It's one of the things I'll talk about here whenever we talk about Expedition 33. But it is something that I think is extremely valuable when you do have so many encounters in a game, to make that feel refreshing and or make you yearn for wanting to get back into combat, whether it's something as simple as wanting to test something out or seeing how this is going to work out in this particular situation. The way that this game has continuously made me want to do that is honestly really impressive. So yeah, man, shout out to Xenoblade 1. I'm looking forward to providing updates for that, obviously, as well, especially whenever I come back. But I'm so glad I took this opportunity to go back to visit this particular entry, because I feel like looking at Xenoblade 1 now through this lens. Once again, Shulk is a character that I've seen for so long in Smash Brothers that now when I play Smash Bros. And I see Shulk, I'm like, oh wait, man, that's my guy. Like he's not just a random anymore. You know what I'm saying? That's my guy. And so now I understand how Xenoblade fans must have felt. Is exactly how I felt when like Sora and Cloud were like introduced into Smash, and I was like, oh, those are my flipping goats. Now I can feel that way about Shulk too, man. And so shout out to Xenoblade. It's been a great journey so far. Like you said, you just have a feeling inside your heart that it's going to resonate with you. It's just a matter of time of whenever you get into it. But I'm just so glad that time was now, man. So shout out to Xenoblade, dude.
Enjoy it,
yeah,
man.
we went from Black Sails to Xenoblade.
Yeah, savor the journey. It's so special.
Yes, sir, man. But going into the game that we've been talking about here, the game that has been rent-free for both of us, the game that undoubtedly has been just taking over our mental space for multiple different reasons. We have, I'll tell you what, man. There's certain things whenever I think about my favorite games, like whenever I construct my list, they fall under a couple categories. But I think to keep it as simple as possible, there are games that I really love for how I feel while I'm playing them. Right, like your Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2s with the memories and nostalgia playing that with my friends. My Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which I can turn that on at any day, at any time, and I can lock right back in. My Dark Souls 3, which I can immediately turn that on one day, and then I'll do like a 3-hour speed run just because it feels great just to be in that world. And then there are the games that I really enjoy because of their stories. You know, my Trails games that I can't wait to see what happens next. My Persona games, my the Xeno games. These games that make me want to just continue forward. Not because obviously I still really enjoy their gameplay, but my main thing that I'm there for is for my connections to the characters, connections to the world. But there are certain games that have that beautiful middle. And my favorite game ever in Final Fantasy VII is the one that I always think back to in regards to this. That FF7, yes, I do love for its characters. And yes, I do love for its world. And yes, I love for its themes. And yes, I love for how how impactful that game was for me in general. But what's equally as beautiful to me is how I could go to my middle school lunchroom, talk about how did you guys beat Ruby Weapon because he keeps whooping me. And everyone will have a different way of beating this man, and or a different party setup, a different materia setup. And someone's like, dude, did you not find this materia over on this side of the world? Or did you not find this thing that's over here that can help you over here? There's so much of that aspect of it, that aspect of Elden Ring, that aspect of Breath of the Wild, that I love so much, that aspect of exploration I love so much in my video games, as well as from the gameplay standpoint. So there are certain games that like they're really good at one thing or really good at the other thing, and some that are obviously good at both. But there are just some that excel at both of them, man. And Expedition 33 has been rent-free for me from both the story side of things with excellent characters, themes that truly personally resonate with me, and moments and music that just, I don't even know where I could possibly begin with the moments and music in regards to this game. But then there is the gameplay aspect of it, where I can reach out to my close friends from that very same middle school lunchroom table and be like, dude, how in the flying flagnars did y'all beat this boss? Because he's so incredibly hard. And then he'll be like, yo, you should have found this Picto that was over here. Or the other one calls me saying that I'm bad at the game. I just need to get good and get better at pairing. And it's like, it's those things that have made this experience so incredibly special to me. Because it takes what I love so much about something like, for example, like an Elden Ring. And also something I love so much about, like what we were just talking about with Xenoblade, where I love the story, but I also can't get enough of the game. So it's like I can lock in at any moment when I feel like turning on the game and just getting back into the world. I'm in. I'm like, oh, getting back into the rhythm of it, getting back into the rhythm of using the party. But at the same time, the characters will start talking while I'm going through the world, and it's like, oh, that's hitting so hard too. So it's hitting both aspects of what makes video games as a medium so special to me. As just an overview of why this game is so incredibly high on my personal list of favorite games, it's because it's tackling two things that are extremely important and pivotal to me within the landscape of video games and what I love from my video games. But of course, we're going to get into specifics. But before we get into those specifics, AJ, man, you just dropped a Verso video, which I can't wait to watch. I've seen you talk about it. I've seen you hint at it. I even saw a potential placement of where this could be in your top 50 favorite games of all time list, man. Talk to me about Claire Obscure Expedition 33, man.
So about that top 100 thing, for anyone who doesn't know, at the time of recording this, I have just finished, like I'm a week out from finishing my top 100 protagonists, antagonists, and fiction of all time, which I do every year on my Twitch channel. I literally, Claire Obscure Expedition 33 missed it by maybe a couple weeks altogether. And that might be a good thing because my list was in danger. All three of my lists were in danger. Protagonists, I think you could say there are arguably, definitely two, arguably three protagonists in this game. Antagonists, I think there are two main ones, and both of them are amazing. And the game in general, being in my fiction list, all three would be there. Whatever, we can wait till the 2026 list to put them there, but it would be very high for all of them. Yeah, man, I don't know where to start. I feel it's a weird thing. So, like, obviously, I love tons of games. I feel honored to play tons of games. Like, anything in my favorite games list, I feel that it was a privilege and an honor to play. But it is a rare experience where while every time I boot up the game, I literally feel like I'm lucky. You know, I'm lucky to be playing it. I mean, I should feel that for everything, but I don't. It's just human nature to not feel that way. But I felt grateful every time I had another 3-4 hour session of Expedition 33. I could not believe how immediately it sucked me in. We're talking about greatest video game starts. That's another one right there. And how it just ramps up on everything, and just gets better and better and better. And then, obviously, we'll get into the nitty-gritty and the more specific characters and moments and stuff. But you end Act 1, and I'm going, okay, that's a really bold story move. That was an incredible first act. Maybe that's where it peaks, you know? Maybe that's where it peaks, because they're changing it up. No, Act 2 is phenomenal, and, in my opinion, a bit better. Then you go, okay, but are they going to stick the landing? And yeah, it's not only do they stick the landing, it's one of the best endings to a video game I've ever seen, with two endings that complete each other, and and have had me thinking since the moment I finished it nonstop. I've lost sleep. Like you said, I wrote that Verso video. I can't wait to hear what you think about the character and the things I said in it. I literally today, I was talking to you before we started recording, that I was doing some work today. The work was a Mael video.
Let's go.
So that's coming. That's coming out tomorrow or Monday or something. Really soon. So it is. I cannot. I think about it. I replay scenes. I look up people playing through it. I listen to the music. I am obsessed. I have not been this obsessed with something. Well, I guess it's been since Rebirth. But outside of Rebirth, because that was just a little over a year ago, you have to go back a while before I was this obsessed over a game. Probably Final Fantasy XIV was the last time. Okay. It's unbelievable. And you think about it, it's like, even my absolute favorite games have limitations. Or they maybe have one or two things that they don't focus on, so they aren't great in it, you know? But Expedition 33, it's like, what does it not... What does it do? What aspect of it isn't amazing? There is nothing about it that isn't amazing. You mentioned the gameplay. That's this amazing mix of Final Fantasy X, Sekiro, and Paper Mario. The most bizarre mix of gameplay that just comes together beautifully. You have this story that's very reminiscent of Xenoblade, Nier, Attack on Titan. I've compared it to, in some ways, Ava. It's so... And you can see the inspiration. You can see that it's very derivative of lots of works, but puts it together into this story that's so... It has no identity problems whatsoever. It is so its own thing. The music is one of the greatest I've ever heard. The visuals are some of the most beautiful. The cutscenes are unreal. And just the environments, just walking through the environments, how did they pack that many unbelievable environments into a game? And then I actually had, in Chrono Trigger, when you beat Magus, and then you just see the summoning of Lavos, and then you end up in Zeal, and you just kind of hold your breath, and your breath is taken away. It's not exactly the same. But I had a weird kind of similarity with that, with the Manor. The first time I saw the Manor, and that music plays, and you're looking, and there are paintings everywhere of your own journey, of your own worlds, and things that you've seen. And it's just like, why is Mael connected to this? Who is the curator? What are these rooms that I can't get into? And then you slowly unlock them, and you see through environmental details, the Mael's even more deeply connected to it. Renoir is connected to it. Verso, there was a family living here. This is a relic that is so burdened by grief and darkness, and you can feel the weight of it here. I had my breath taken away by the Manor in that way. The cast is so unbelievable. The cast, and I guess there's 10 to 12 primary characters. It's not a gigantic cast, but the characters that do get focus are so so good. Even the once in a while, so I think Gustav's immediately amazing. Mael's immediately amazing. I think Lune has a really good start. Verso, Renoir, and the Paintress. Like, I think those characters are immediately really good and continue to be. But, for example, there were characters where I was just like, okay, like, I like them. What's their role in the game? Or, like, I want to connect with them more. So there was... I felt that with, at first, Minoko, who I thought was really funny and really charming, but I'm just like, okay, he's kind of just along for the ride. What's going on here? And then you get the stuff about the context of his place in the real world and how the pet was named Minoko. The dog was named Minoko.
Yeah.
And some of the little characterization details that really reflect the things that a dog would do with its owner. And it's just like, oh my God. And the way that you defeat the Paintress, and Minoko just goes like, looks at Verso and goes, "You're free." And then and then he says that to Verso, but then he kind of checks himself and goes, "You're all free." But you know what he means, right? Yeah. So Minoko, then once that started coming to the fore, I'm like, okay, Minoko's awesome. Then there was Ciel, who I really appreciated as this sort of mediator personality. You know, Gustav's very emotional and very impulsive. Same thing with Lune, though she can be a bit more like logical and get in her own head about that. And they butt heads a lot of the time. She's kind of the mediator there, and she's so, I guess, very chill about the whole thing. She's very accepting. She's very zen. And I'm just like, that's cool. I like what she brings to the party. But I never really connected with her. And then I saw her talk to Verso about why she is so accepting of death, and her history with her husband, and her attempt on her own life, and all that stuff. And I immediately went, okay, I get it. Ciel is amazing. And there's a moment where the Gommage happens after you kill the Paintress, or you defeat the Paintress, and unknowingly cause the whole world to be destroyed. And she begins fading. And there's a split second where every character realizes what's happening. And there's panic, there's fear, there's terror, there's sadness. And it's all obviously horrifying. But at the end of Act 2, Ciel sees it, and she just closes her eyes. And she wasn't full of it, right? She just accepts it. She absolutely, whenever her time was going to come, she was going to accept it. And even at the end of Verso's ending, where she's disappearing because of him, she doesn't hold it against him. You can kind of see in her expression, she's not happy with him, but she holds his hand as she disappears. So, like, what I'm getting at is, in this huge ramble, sorry, I'll let you talk in a sec.
Oh, no, I love it. I love it.
Is all the characters are amazing. The world is amazing. Every aspect of it. You mentioned the gameplay. Incredible. I can't wait to do my New Game Plus run just to play it. And the world, it's one of the most captivating worlds in any story I've ever experienced. The emotional storytelling, I was emotional the entire way through. The tone and atmosphere, the structure of the plot, the way that you're so confused about things to do with the plot, but they offer just enough emotional context to keep you going and not, like, overwhelmed with the details, and so that you're totally lost in a convoluted plot. And it's so intimate and grand at the same time. And it's, more than anything, it is this unrelenting piece of art that so beautifully celebrates the wonders of stories and imagination and art, and also the difficulties with the human condition and what it means to come to terms with the horrors of our world and the sadness of our world and grief. And what I love about the ending is that there is no good ending. They're both bad. They're both awful endings. And it's just none of the... I think there's 4 main points of view you can get in the game, which is Aline, the Paintress, Renoir, Verso, and Mael. And it's like, all of them are understandable, all of them are sympathetic, all of them are wrong in many ways and right in others. And it's just like, God, which is the worst, which is the least bad of all these bad options? There is no, in a situation like this, there is no fulfilling option. There is nothing there. At best, you have maybe things will get better someday. Maybe there's a glimmer of hope. But that's all you get at best. And I love the boldness there, because it takes a lot of courage to so accurately portray and convey the themes of your story, to stay loyal to them. But to stay loyal to them would be to mean that the game doesn't feel satisfying in a traditional way to finish. But
Exactly.
they followed through. Neither ending feels good. And together, but together they give you this beautiful picture of love and loss and art and stories and life that I can't stop thinking about.
Yeah, man. No. Beautifully said. Thank you. Thank you for your ramble. Because, man, you put to words so much of what I was feeling. To go and continue on from your point in regards to just how committed they are to this. Once again, you never know if these things are intentional or not, but it truly is how I felt. When I was going through this game, I obviously devoured it, right? Like, I gave no thought to anything else. I remember in the days leading up to this, I obviously took that Thursday off because I really wanted to sit down and play this game for as long as I possibly could. And that's exactly what I did, right? And I took every other opportunity until I finished it to play it. I couldn't get enough of it. And by the time I got into Act 2, because obviously when you finish Act 1, that's always a huge thing. And I'm so glad we had the Bleach discussion. In our Bleach discussion, we talked about how different Soul Society is to the rest of the game, or to the rest of the series. And it made me smile from ear to ear, because I was around that point in Expedition 33, whenever you finish Act 1 and you see how like everything changes after that. It feels like a completely different game while also feeling the same exact game after it switches from Gustav to Verso. But I think one of the really beautiful things about the way that this game trusts you to go on that journey is when I was going through Act 2 in particular, I thought the Paintress was the final boss. I didn't know there was an Act 3. I didn't know there was anything at the end. So leading up to that final encounter with the Paintress, I did everything I possibly could, AJ. I was stalling. I went around with the characters because I knew once this potentially ends, based on how the game had gone so far, everyone could potentially die. So I was already preparing myself internally, the way the characters have been talking about it. If I fail against the Paintress, I don't know if the Paintress is supposed to win. I don't know if we're actually supposed to succeed in this thing and actually turn fate on its head. I still don't know where we're going with the story here. So to prepare myself, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go do everything I possibly can on the world map, but there were certain places I still couldn't explore, and I was like, okay, I don't know why, but we're gonna take care of that. Then I saw when they introduced great encounters, I was like, why can't I unlock level 3? Did I do something wrong, or level 2? And then I obviously hadn't reached a max relationship level, so I was like, is this game going for the incomplete thing like they did with Aerith in FF7? Like, am I going to go and face the Paintress? It ends, and I'm left with a feeling of incompleteness because that's what the game is going for. So I'm not going to be able to finish my relationship levels. I'm not going to be able to finish the great encounters because that's not what the game is trying to say. So I was trying my hardest to see what I could do before I reached the Patriots, because I genuinely thought that was the end of the game. Especially whenever you go into that final section, you face off against Renoir, and you're like, oh my god. Then you go into the battle with the Patriots, which, by the way, is still my favorite fight in the entire game. Both
Unreal.
from what it means to the story, the music, the battle phases, both in terms of combat and what it means for the overall story. And like I said, because I thought this was the final boss, I was just locked in, man. And the first few times that I died, I was like, no, man, we are gonna win. And it was a really, really sensational fight. But
When she heals you as well?
Yes, exactly. And it's like, bro, what is going on?
Yeah.
So then you finish that incredible second phase, somehow survive it. And then you get everything that you were alluding to there with, you go back to Lumiere, the music starts playing, and the Gamage happens, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh my god, it's actually happening. Like, hold on, wait, stop. I think this is the end of the game. I'm feeling like, did I do something wrong along the way? Could I have min-maxed certain things, or I could have seen like the relationship levels at a certain point? Does this game have New Game Plus? I feel like I failed the characters, because the main reason why I didn't want the game to end is because I didn't want to stop this journey with the characters. I love them too much. Little did I know, that's exactly what they were going for. As you go into the epilogue, you wake up in the mansion, and this has to be one of like the all-time video game moments for me. Going from the end of Act 2 to that junk saying epilogue, I was like, oh my flipping goodness, what
Insane.
are we cooking here? You see what the actual large scale, like what they're actually trying to say with the story is present within that epilogue. You understand why the manor was always so prevalent. You understand why Mile was so connected to this, and the nightmares, which now that I've been replaying the game through and New Game Plus, and seeing just how much they put into the nightmare sequences early on that foreshadowed so much of this, but of course we didn't have the context for it. It was just so incredibly brilliant. So then you get back into the painted world, you make that decision, and now the world has been opened, and you unlock Eskier's airship ability in the way that you do within that particular plot line. But what really touched my heart is when you have to unlock the sea, and how you can swim by getting further in Ciel's thing, because she has to overcome her fear. And it's like all of this stuff is so interconnected that it made me love the characters even more. So AJ, once I got into Act 3, I was like, okay, they're doing the classic 3-disc system. As someone who's played so much of Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy IX in particular, I kept thinking back like, yeah, you know what, this is accurate. Midgar, Act 1, Act 2 is Disc 2, then Disc 3, that's when you're going around the entire world and preparing yourself for the final battle. Okay, they have done it. So I was like, you know what, man, before I go over there to Old Lumiere to finish this off, I am doing everything. I don't want to say goodbye to these characters. And AJ, I do everything. I finish every single relationship quest. I do all of the potential side material that I can do at that point in time, because obviously some were way too strong for me. So I did all of it. I did the incredible Alicia finale with
so
her
good.
and Mael, which is one of my favorite pieces of side content in any game ever. It was so unbelievably special. So I did all of that. And then I reached the point in whenever I'm ready now. I'm like, I have done everything I can for these characters. I love them so much. It reminded me of the end of Final Fantasy X, where I was like, I don't want to say goodbye. All right, I really do. I know what's coming, but I don't want to say goodbye to the characters. But I don't know what's coming, because what comes is after you defeat Renoir, and you are placed in a situation where you have to choose: is Mael right, or is Verso right? And my heart in my heart of hearts, I don't want to say goodbye to these characters. That's what I've been feeling from Act 2 until now, and especially now. I've just gone through all the relationship quests. I've just gone through everything that explored all of what makes our main party so special. And now you're telling me to choose? Choose between my two beloveds? Choose between both these individuals that I just want them to stop arguing so they can come to some sort of conclusion together? I have to choose? It's one of gaming's greatest moments, because the same conflict and inner conflict that they're feeling, you're now feeling as the player. And I'm sitting here remembering how I felt at the end of Final Fantasy X, being like, I don't want to go through that again. I don't want to say goodbye. I don't want to leave dreams unfulfilled. I even though I understood what the game was going for in FF10, and it's one of the most beautiful endings because of that, I was still like, no, I don't want to say goodbye. And ultimately, I ended up going with Verso because of that experience. And to go and see the Verso ending, seeing what they were trying to say with the Verso ending, then going back to the Mile ending, which is what my heart wanted more than anything else. I understood Mile. I understood the parents in that moment. I understood the family. Everything clicked for me for Expedition 33 and what it was trying to say with that final question of having to choose between those two characters. Because, like I said, for so long leading up to the finale, I did everything in my power to protect these individuals because I loved them so much. I didn't want them to die. I didn't want to lose them. And that's exactly what I believe the game wanted you to feel. And it ended up being one of the most powerful experiences I have ever had because of that, man. I'm curious on how you felt in that particular stretch leading into the ending, because that's how the experience was for me, bro. That was just crazy, man. I was like, I don't know what to do, but I ultimately made the decisions that I made, and it ended up elevating the game to the highest possible levels because of my own personal experience with that with that final sequence and that entire final stretch.
That was beautifully put, because there really is a meta sort of synchronicity between how we feel about the characters who are so, and especially in this game, where it's like, yeah, you never want your journey to end with great characters in a great video game, but it hits a little bit harder here when there is the gommage, and and death feels so intimately close at all times, especially with what happened with Gustav. And then what we learn about the painting later on, and about how they are kind of essentially at the whims of these creators who are basically they're gods. They act as gods. So there's a great synchronicity there, meta-narratively, in which we feel about these characters very, very similarly to how Mael does. And so when I reach, and other characters do, like, I don't think, despite Verso, well, we'll talk more about it in a sec, but despite Verso basically wanting to do, or not wanting to do, but feeling like his decision is to end the world and saying goodbye to this world and everything, despite him choosing that, he doesn't at all, I think he feels that just as much as Mael. He has this connection with them. He has spent 100, like, I don't remember exactly, maybe 100 years, a long time, in this painting, like going on expeditions, making connections with people. He has a family. He saw his own family, the painted Renoir, the painted Alicia, and then the painted Clea, all disappear if you do the side quest. So he feels that way too, but it's just different priorities, different philosophies, and in terms of what they value. So, sorry, to answer the question, is when I got there, I just kind of sat in shock at first of all, the imagery is unbelievable. So you're just in this hellscape, this beautifully dark hellscape, watching this fragment of Verso's soul constantly painting, and it's just like the decision screen's right up there. I sat there 15, 20 minutes, tears in my eyes, just like, because I knew what the right decision, not the right decision, but the least bad decision, you know?
Yeah.
I knew what it was, and I know it is what the game is saying, and it is the most difficult thing to do, but is ultimately the one that has the greatest potential for happiness, for Mael. But you don't want to do it. You don't want to do it at all. I didn't want to say goodbye. I didn't want to make a decision that would lead to Lune and Ciel and Esquier and Minoko and Verso, even though he wanted desperately to die, to go away. So it was basically just coming to terms with the fact that I was gonna have to do that, which is, I think, what Verso went through, what Mael went through, and ultimately didn't go through with. And so it's incredibly meta in that way. But so what I ended up doing was, the way I go with video game endings is I know which one I want to pick, and I pick the opposite first, and then reload and see the one I pick after that. So I saw Mael's first, and went like, yeah, that's kind of what I expected, more or less. That doesn't mean that it wasn't amazingly crafted, gutting, horrifying, because it's so much deeper than what you might initially think of it. It is because there's that awful piano chime, right? When Verso is playing piano and then you see Mael's distorted face. and it's just like, oh God, she is losing herself, and it's horrifying. But the thing is she is not intentionally trying to hurt him. She is not manipulating him with malice. She is not evil. She's not an awful person. She just is so racked by grief and trauma and pain and disfigurement and regret that she just can't see a life for herself outside of it. But and also, I think the game very clearly tells us that these people in the story are not, despite them being painted, being creations, they are absolutely real, sentient human beings with just as much life and dimensions to them and humanity to them as anyone outside the painting. Now, their existence is different, so if someone wants to make an evaluation of the final choice depending on how death affects them, because death is less final for them, right? Then that's fair. But in terms of the actual people they are no different within the painting and outside the painting. So Mael really saves an entire world. She saves a mass, wiping out of the planet by keeping it alive. And that is something that you have to, hold to your chest when you decide to oppose her. Like, you have to feel that. So there's no answer to this that makes you feel good. I feel like crap because of that. I had to watch Lune so furious, just sit down, right? Have to die when her whole life has been leading up to this point. The pressure of her parents that we learn about throughout the entire thing. Yep. Awful, horrific. We have to hug Eskie and Monoko goodbye. We have to say goodbye to Ciel. And we have to make Mael cruelly. Honestly, in that choice, you rob her of her agency. You don't let her make the choice. You force her to. And so it doesn't feel good. What Verso does there is awful. But then on the other hand, you do a Mael, you look at Mael's, and she literally keeps him prisoner. This man who we learn throughout the entire game, more than anything, he wants to die. He is so tormented and tired and full of pain for so many different reasons, and he just wants to die and he just wants to rest, and yet he endures for the sake of other people, for his family. Yeah. He sacrifices everything for them, and he never has himself as the foremost thing in his mind. Death and wanting to die for him is always the secondary option, the secondary priority. It's always, I want my mother, the paintress, to rest. I want her to be free, so let's defeat her. Then it's, I want to help Mael restore everyone. I want to defeat Renoir. Then, the moment he learns about what actually goes on with Aline due to being in the painting for so long, and that Mael will end up like that, then he changes his mind again to save her. And then he's thinking of Mael. He never does it for himself primarily. While he has tons of selfish actions throughout, like you mentioned the Alicia side quest, he admits to allowing Gustav to die, right?
Yeah.
That is a horrific thing. Horrific that he does. But it's also one of the horrific, understandable things that happen, because he feared that if they figured out about what the Gommage was, that they wouldn't go through with it and they wouldn't be able to free his mother, Aline.
Exactly.
So, like, every decision, every selfish, flawed action is so layered and human. And that's the same thing when it comes to the ending. You cannot, if you come away from the game feeling good, I seriously don't think that you've put enough, the adequate amount of thought into the implications of the ending. Because no answer, there was no answer. There was just like, which is the most hopeful, which is the best. And so I ended up choosing Verso. It's because the alternative was him continuing to be imprisoned and Mael wasting away, not being able to move on, as her family is torn apart on the outside and dying in this painting. But at the same time, who am I to say that's more valuable than the tons of lives that die because you make that decision? Like, I can't say it. You just go with your gut, you go with your heart, you go with what feels most right. And it's just one of the most difficult video game decisions I've ever made. that I still think about and still toss around in my mind to this day. And my process towards choosing it was, like I said, I just stared at my screen in shock, accepting the reality of what I was going to have to do for like 20 minutes.
Dude, it's like I'm just now thinking back to now that you were talking about the Mael side of that ending. I'm just thinking back to the visual imagery at hand there, the music. I can't stop thinking about the piano now. It's just it's crazy, right? Like going back to what I was just talking about with FF10. Remember how I was telling you that before we got into this particular Expedition 33 brain rot thing, that I was in a massive Final Fantasy X mood, and I didn't know why. I was just like, man, this is crazy, and then we got this, which is a game that obviously they've talked about it at length, that it was inspired by FF10 among other pieces of literature and media that have been created. But the FF10 one really stuck with me because that game in particular has always been special to me for how it treats sort of the same type of things that this game talks about. When I learned about what they were going for with Renoir and the Paintress as like these gods, quote unquote, of this verse, as well as Verso and Mael's overall their role with this within this entire thing, the roles of the entire family. It reminded me so much about what FF10 was going for with Yuna and her pilgrimage.
Yes.
What the individuals ultimately had to decide towards the end of that game. What Tidus has to come to and decide as well. There's so many things that reflect what makes the final stretch of that game so special, with the human decisions they have to make. That reminded me of why the end of this game, and why the end of this game resonated as hard as it did. To touch upon another thing real quick, just in regards to CL, because you were talking about CL earlier, for how that particular section of her relationship quests, relationship level, the campfire scenes, where you get to find out some more stuff about that, was a scene that resonated with you, and absolutely resonated with me as well. I can't lie to you, bro. I fell in love at first sight when I first used her in combat, because I was like, dude, she has Crollo's abilities. I was like, oh my god! Yeah. I was like, hold on, man. Bro, the moment I started using her, I was like, holy sweet mother of Flagnars, this is what Crollo would feel like to use in a turn-based JRPG. And I was like, now this is beautiful. This is, this means something to me. But to talk about some of the character dynamics real quick, because this game has a lot of really special ones. I really love the relationship. You posted earlier today on Twitter the relationship between Esquier and Verso, which
Yes.
I absolutely adore, and I'm looking forward to hearing you elaborate on that. But one that I really, really love, you talked about earlier, which is the relationship between Monaco and Verso. This is actually the dynamic that got me, besides the one with obviously Mael and Verso, and Mael and Gustav. This was actually the one that had me hooked the most. Monaco and Verso's entire history, from initial inception. When you hear about it, it's like these old battle-hardened brothers that were once together and then were separated. Like the initial concept, I was like, that's super interesting. You meet back up with them, they fight it out, like it's like Kenpachi meeting up with Ichigo again or something, and like these two individuals that obviously have a lot of love for each other. They would never admit it, but they really do appreciate each other's existence, and they want what's best for each other, and they have a very playful attitude towards one another. But there's a deep history that it continues to be just unraveled throughout the course of the rest of the narrative. And going back into what you said earlier about the moment where he says, "You're finally free," and then he like cuts back for a bit. I really felt that, dude. Where I was like, this is a huge moment for obviously both of these characters. But when you look at the grand scope of the narrative and what Monaco is and on the in the outside, in the reality of things, that entire journey, the dynamic between those two characters is definitely the one that is one of the major highlights for me of this entire game, because the one between SK and Verso is so incredibly special to me. The one with Verso and everyone in the party, but Verso and Mile obviously is my favorite overall if I had to pick one. But the one between Monako and Verso, due to those elements, and the mystery aspect of it, while also staying so, I feel like Monoko's relationship with him really sold the idea these are actual living, breathing individuals, no matter what the overall thing what they're trying to say about it in the universe. Obviously, outside of the universe, we look at these as actual characters. But when the characters first hear about this, and for example, there's this one moment when Lune asks Mael to paint her a picture of the real world because she wants to see it. That's a really that's a real human thing. I felt that personally. Mm-hmm. I was like, if I was told that I was a part of like a video game or a simulation where I'm living out a life that's according to somebody else's whims, I would be like, you know something, I would love to see what that looks like. I'm fascinated, and I think that's so human, because you could honestly find basis in how humans view like the afterlife, and how humans view what's going to happen after one dies, and wanting to know about that before they meet their end. There's so many moments like that, like the moment with Lune, like Monoko's relationship with Verso, that makes the characters feel so incredibly real and human, that it leads into what you were talking about with, these are individuals. When Verso allows Gustav to die, it's not because he has the preordained knowledge of what's here. That's a decision that's really difficult. But at the end of the day, he has to make, or he believes he has to make it because of what you were talking about earlier. And it's all of those things that make these characters feel so incredibly human, man. And I love that about this game's characters. But please, man, talk to me about you were talking about a little bit earlier about the dynamic between Verso and Eskie, but any other character dynamics that you think are really interesting or special in this particular game?
Honestly, you could just put all the characters in a hat and pick any two, and it's probably amazing. Mm-hmm. But so Eskie, to start with Eskie and Verso, I think there's something incredibly, incredibly beautiful that we have this man, Verso, who, like I said, he lives a tortured existence. I don't know if you saw. Did you see the scene where he cuts himself in half?
Yeah.
Okay. So, because I didn't realize, because I went to camp all the time, whenever I could, but that it was an optional scene. I didn't realize it was, so some people missed it. But yeah, so you can see there. That's sort of an encapsulation of what he does. I don't mean to say that Verso is a great person, because he's not. But
right.
A lot of his life is what he does there, which is suffering for the sake of other people.
Right.
He's very selfish and manipulative, but he does it for other people above all. And what does he value more than anything is his care, is his connections with others, and music, which I actually want to talk about in a bit. His relationship with music, but So he has so little to see as hopeful in life. It is this constant endurance of pain and trying and failing to save his mother, right? And it is just torment. They describe it throughout the game as just torment. He is so tired and weathered, and just it's honestly unbelievable that he doesn't just become a shell from all that he goes through. But I think a big part of the reason that he doesn't is because of Monoko. But it's also stated that it's been a while since he saw Monoko, so he's even separated from him. But and Eskie, who is just this At first, honestly, I didn't know what to make of him. I'm just like, is this?
I feel you.
Is this like a villain? Is this like, because he feels so aloof and detached and strange that it's like, is this just like is this guy gonna be a villain? I literally couldn't tell, but very quickly he starts ferrying you around. He starts calling everyone mes amis, and it's just like, okay, this is the cuddliest, most beautiful, endearing teddy bear I've ever seen in my life. So just through the sheer idea of what he is, ends up being, I think he really ends up saving Verso's existence. It doesn't make it so that Verso decides, at the end of all this time, yes, I want to live. No, his time was up. It was long up. But what I think that SKA did is helped it to make it worthwhile. I think helped him to have a friend and someone to hug. There are options throughout the game of Verso hugging him, and every time if you select the right option, Verso's like, of course I want to hug you, because there's that beautiful connection is something he's so devoid of. And I feel like there's also the element of SKA being the original Verso's sort of idealization of a fantastical, fun friend in this fantasy world. Right. That then just gets reflected back on the painted Verso in a really lovely way. But there's also the scene at the final, I believe it's the final bonding event with him, where Verso, this isn't something that's spoken of a lot, but something that I talk about a lot in the video that you mentioned that I made about Verso is that he must so often wonder if he is an individual, because he is, to even a greater extent than the painted family of Alicia, Renoir, and Clea, he is a reflection of the original Verso. He has his memories, his feelings, etc. So when he acts when he meets Lune, and he thinks, oh, she seems like a nice person, a little combative, but I think we could get along and share some interesting talks. When he thinks that about someone, he must think in the back of his mind, is that really me? Or am I only thinking that way, the way I do about people, the world, whatever? Am I only thinking that way because the original Verso did? Do I have any individuality at all? I think that's something that he grapples with a lot. I think as well, he must struggle with the idea of living up to the original Verso, because he was literally created to be his replacement. It's a desperately cruel existence. It's such a cruel thing that Aline does. And again, I'm not saying she's awful for doing this. I don't think she's evil for doing this, but it is a horrific thing that she did in chaining Verso to this existence, where he doesn't even know who he is. Am I a person, or am I just a shade of the original? And so in the final thing with SKA, he goes, do you sometimes wish that I was him? Like, can you even tell a difference between us? And SKA just he says, you never talk about him. And then SKA goes, well, it makes you sad. And he says, I would be paraphrasing, but he essentially asks, like, am I different from him? Am I just the same? How do I compare to him? All of his insecurities. And SKA just says, well, yeah, you're like him a little bit. You're like cousins. But that's Verso, and you're you, and you're different. Yeah. And I love both of you. And that's just how it is. You're different people. And so he is, and SKA isn't going to lie about that. So the pure honesty and beauty of SKA acknowledging and validating his identity and saying, yeah, you are an individual, and I love you for who you are. And then Verso's response to that is so, it made me tear up, man. He just goes, thank you, mon ami, thank you. And then SKA goes, let's go on adventures forever. And let's not get into how sad that is.
That's that broke my heart, dude.
It's crazy.
Especially with context.
Yes, exactly. But I actually, the moment I saw that scene is when I realized that Verso was one of my favorite characters of all time. That is one of the best scenes in the whole thing, and that's their relationship in a nutshell.
100%.
It is a glimmer of light in this horrific world. And you know what? Maybe it didn't save Verso. Maybe it didn't help him actually believe that, yes, I am my own person. But it helped it to make it so that his existence wasn't worthless, you know? And I think that's so important. I won't go deep into the other ones, but to mention a few that I really like as well, you outside of the ones you said, I think the original Renoir and Aline is incredible. And the moment where Aline sort of reaches out to him with the paintress's giant hand, my God, that is unbelievable. Then there's also there's the painted Renoir, who I honestly is just as trapped as Verso. Really, he's a painting. He's a reflection of wish fulfillment. He does everything opposite to the original Verso because Aline painted him that way. So he can't really act any other way. But even in spite of that, he loves his family. And just like Verso, just like the original Verso, just like the painted Verso, just like Maëlle, just like Renoir, just like Aline, he loves his family, and he would do anything to make sure they don't get torn apart. That's a commonality between Renoir, both Renoir. That's the one thing they share. And so I really love the dynamics between Renoir, and I really love the dynamic between the painted Renoir and Verso. Because if you look at it from his perspective, yes, awful what he's doing. Constantly killing all these people who literally just don't know why they keep dying. So he does horrific things, but he's also, to me, sympathetic, and he is constantly facing his son wanting to erase his existence and his son's existence and destroy their family. So if you put yourself in that perspective, it is such a loaded and tragic dynamic. And then there's that all over the place. But I was gonna just dwell a little bit more on Maëlle and Verso, but
absolutely.
You can interrupt me if you want to talk about anything I just talked about.
Oh no, yeah, dude, go ahead and cook, brother.
Okay,
go ahead and cook.
So but just the Maëlle and Verso to me is the best as well. It's my favorite. It just has to be them. But and you know, I rent free the scene of them playing the piano together. But speaking of the piano, just them playing the piano together. Speaking of that, another part of the Maëlle ending that just sticks a knife in my gut. Also, Gustave Maëlle is one of the best for sure.
Yes,
you mentioned that, but I just wanted to mention it too. But what sticks a knife in my gut, man, what destroys me, is that Maëlle says, "Would you be happy if you were to grow old?" So, what she allows, the biggest I think identifier of the fact that she is not trying to hurt him with this, she's not trying to trap him, is that they have a talk about how Verso he loves music, and what he loves more than anything is to perform on the piano, and he has so many great memories of performing in these grand halls, and he loves that. That is just what he lives for. And he talks about that with Maëlle, and she says, I want yours to be my first show, and I'll tell everyone about the show, and it's going to be a packed house, and it'll be beautiful, and we'll all hear you play. And Verso's like, okay, and you can tell Maëlle knows that this is what he loves. This is his dream. This is what he lives for. And she also knows how tormented he is by the permanence of his existence. So what does she do in this ideal world of hers? For Verso, she makes it so that he can age, because he's noticeably older in the black and white scene. Maybe by aging, he'll be able to feel like his life is not, like he's not trapped. And also, she grants him exactly what they talked about. His love of music, his desire to perform in front of everyone, of friends, of family, of everyone. They're all there to see him play the piano, do his thing, and that is what they talked about with love in their hearts and passion, and like, this will be so great when this is all over. Let's do this. So Mael is trying to grant his wish with her ideal ending. She will not compromise on that happy ending. She will not, because she cannot let go. She just can't do it.
Right.
And she will not put Verso's freedom ahead of her own. And so she'll try, and she doesn't want him to be unhappy. So she tries everything. She tries everything. She allows him to age. She tries everything she can do without letting him die. She allows him to age. She allows him to play in front of everyone. She gives him all these connections with all his friends are here. And I'm sure she would have agreed to bring back his family. I'm sure that's something that she would have been open to. All of that. She does all of that to make him happy. But the thing is, it's still trapping him. That's the horrible thing about it. He doesn't want this existence if it's forced upon him. He just wants a natural life and a life to end. And it's just so heartbreaking that Ben Starr's voice acting, by the way. Oh my God. When he's begging and pleading for her, I don't want this life, help me. I can't believe how that is some of the best voice acting I've ever heard. And then when he goes to the painted boy, or the faceless boy, and he goes, I'm tired too.
Yes.
Oh my God. Insane. So the thing is like, there is no answer for him to continue existing. There is no way that him continuing to exist could ever be fulfilling. He's done. And because that, and also what is so heartbreaking about this is that at the beginning of Act 3, when we have Mael with her new hair and her memories of Alicia and Verso talking about all the revelations we just learned about her past, she tells Verso, you're not Verso. Like, you're not the original Verso. You're your own person. She says that to him. And it's kind of what Esquier says. You're your own person. You're different. You're you and he's him. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful because, again, it's what he wants in life. It's what he struggles with all the time. But the most heartbreaking thing is, after the fight, if you choose Mael's ending, she starts talking to him like he's the original Verso.
Yeah, man.
She calls him brother. She says, what about the life that was stolen from us? She says, I just want a lifetime together that we could have had. She's not talking to this Verso. She's talking to her brother. And that is his greatest fear. That is why he's trapped. And it's just, oh my God. And
so true.
Again, she's not a horrible person for doing this. He's not a horrible person for the things he does. It's just all these flawed people, such human decisions, such layered things, such understandable motives, that just, unfortunately, there could only be a sad ending. I just think one is slightly less bad than the other, but man, the layers of the endings kind of solidify Mael and Verso as the best in the game and one of my favorite of all time.
Absolutely, dude. You blew my mind with that particular section that you just went over with her talking about Verso in that way. That is so true. That actually did not clock for me whenever I went through that scene. That makes that even more tragic to me, man. That breaks my heart even more, dude. Especially looking at it from the perspective of those final scenes within her ending, man. The layers just continue to be peeled in regards to that, to both of those endings together, creating this masterful work. I wanted to bring up a particular line, two particular lines, in fact, that are said in this game, which I think are just they are a part of every single aspect of this game, from the moment that you start it until its final scene in both endings, and that is the line, "Tomorrow comes, and the line for
Yes.
those who come after.
Yes.
Those two lines, I think, capture everything that make this game so incredibly beautiful. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on these two lines, but I want to talk about these two lines in particular from the sense of from a creator standpoint, from a storyteller standpoint, especially for those who come after. This line, when I heard it from a soldier's point of view in Gustav's part of the story, I thought was really powerful. I was like, man, you know what? This is actually connecting with me in a way that, even though I can't finish this, someone else will. And I found that to be so incredibly powerful. They're doing everything they can to finally get out of this cycle that they've been in, to the point to where they don't even care if they are the ones that do it, as long as, thanks to their expedition, those who then come after them can get closer to finding out the truth and to understanding the truth of this world. That is such a selfless thing that each of those soldiers had, that made it so incredibly beautiful and impactful. But those words gain an entirely different meaning once you get to the end of the game, because obviously you still have that aspect of it that is so incredibly beautiful, but now you bring it in from a meta-contextual storytelling sense, which is the story itself that they've crafted here with Expedition 33, the stories that will continue to be told throughout time, the stories that came before this game that created this game. Every single story that's ever been made was made for those who come after it. It was made for those that take the ideas, that take the things that come from those stories, interpret them in their own ways, and then reestablish them and create their own works for then another individual to be inspired by those things. And it continues and continues, and it is the beauty and absolutely just incredible thing that makes stories so special. But when you bring in both of those words together, and it comes to be tomorrow comes for those who come after, then you get the absolutely beautiful thing that I think anyone who's ever been impacted by a story can feel, which is when you're going through something like Mael's going through in this game, like the characters are going through in this game in regards to them going through their grief, them going through their suffering, and in particular the way this is explored in the Verso ending. It is, yes, in the moment you are going through all this. Yes, in the moment all of these things are extremely hard. And yes, through all of these decisions that you have to make, the accountability you have to take for not only just your own things, but just for life being life and things that are completely out of your control. With all that being said, a tomorrow will come. A tomorrow will eventually make its way here. And it's up to you. It's up to our decisions to do something about that. The same way the soldiers did in Act 1. To attempt to find out about the mysteries of the world. To find out how they can get out of this cycle. Is the same thing that you and I do in regards to our actual life. The stories we create is to attempt to find out more about ourselves. It's to attempt to find out more about our world. It's to attempt to connect to other individuals whom we may not even know exist. Ichiro Oda doesn't know that I exist, but his story impacted me so much, it made me want to create my own. Yoshihiro Togashi probably knows you exist, but he most certainly had an impact on you that made you want to go out and create as well. And so these creators, even though we will never be able to meet, they created something that impacted us so much that we wanted to create something for other individuals. And so I find those two words, whether they're together or whether they're separate, from just a meta sense, to be so incredibly beautiful. And from a personal standpoint, from a creative standpoint, and overall just in terms of being human, that they capture everything that makes this game so incredibly special. And obviously there's everything that those two words mean for the characters within the narrative. But outside of the narrative and what the game is going for in regards to the power of stories and the power of, similar to Yumineko, the power of how creating a fictional world, how creating a fantasy world, how believing in magic can, which is obviously the power of stories and the power of something that you've experienced, that it's up to you whether you want to believe it or not, is ultimately a part of what makes us human. And I love so much about how that's captured within those two words. But I wanted to get your thoughts on it because obviously those two words capture everything that make the story so special. But similar to what Takehiko Inoue talked about in regards to his thoughts on Vagabond, words are interpreted differently based on an individual and their experiences. And that's how those words impacted me on a personal level. So I just wanted to ask you, what did you think about those two words, how they take place within the narrative, and just what did you feel about those two words personally?
Well, honestly, from a meta-narrative standpoint and what it has to do with the theme of stories and art, I thought about it a little bit, but I hadn't thought of what you just said, and I absolutely love it. So, out of those two quotes, Tomorrow Comes is one I thought about a lot. It's actually, no one listening to this can see it, but it's my current Discord status.
Yeah.
Is Tomorrow Comes. So, it's maybe my favorite quote in the game. But, and so is For Those Who Come After. But For Those Who Come After, I mainly liked it for very specific dialectic contextual reasons having to do in universe rather than any deep meaning. It mostly had to do with just Gustav. It reminded me of Gustav because it's what he says with his attack, and it's just this rallying cry for the constantly the in such a moving way for, like you said, it's this soldier's rallying cry for their mission, and if they fail, someone will pick up the torch and continue on, and it's very moving in the context of the universe. I hadn't thought of it beyond that quote. So hearing you say that it has to do with stories and this game, because it's sort of unlocked something in my mind, what you just said, because this story is, like we said earlier, is so derivative. It wouldn't exist without Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy, Nier, Paper Mario, for some FromSoft games. So many works. It wouldn't exist without them. And it takes their torch and carries it forward and has its own things to say, and then passes on the torch for those who come after, in the way you just said. And that is, it's for those in the industry trying to do similar things. So contemporary creators, I think it's for those who create games and game stories and storytellers in general. For those who come after, this is our heart and soul. Now it's your turn. Here's what we think. What do you think? And then, like you said, for people like us, for consumers who will then take what they have to say, not consumers, the audience rather, who will take what they have to say and have it impact our lives, and then use that in a sort of Metal Gear Solid 2, Yakuza-esque way of passing on what we take from it to those we care about. So that's what I think about For Those Who Come After. That literally just happened now when you said that. And then Tomorrow Comes. I love it. Tomorrow Comes to me is just everything that this game is distilled in two words. It's I just think of, when I think of this one, it's said throughout the game, obviously. It's this embodiment of hope in the darkest of times that these people hold on to. And I just think of, for some reason, when I think of this, it's I believe it's Verso talking to Lune when they're literally about to take on the Paintress, and he goes, this is what the expeditions are for, and she goes, tomorrow comes. It's just this constant striving for the horizon and the hope beyond. Yeah. And I think it's very emblematic of Lune specifically because when Gustav was despairing because everyone died and he couldn't find Mael, she kept reminding him of what they were fighting for, and so to me, she really personifies and embodies it. But then, if you think of the grander narrative, tomorrow will always come. For Mael, who experienced unbelievable grief and pain and guilt and shame, there will be a tomorrow. In the ending where Verso destroys the canvas world, and she wakes up in her reality, she wakes up in a tomorrow, and it's an ugly world, and it's dark, and she's full of pain, but as long as there's always a life to be had and a tomorrow to come, there is hope, and there's possibility. The hope, the thing is in the game is Mael constantly, when she was part of the expedition, grappled with that idea, with how do you have hope in this world? Well, she had Gustav by her side, where they'd throw rocks and keep persisting in spite of the insurmountable task ahead of them. That's the challenge she's facing in reality. It's totally different in terms of specifics, but in terms of complexion, it's very similar. So that is her battle. Tomorrow's come, and with that tomorrow comes possibility. And she has the courage and fortitude within her to make something of that. And tomorrow comes for Aline. She is beside herself in grief and lost herself and all of that, but she is with a family that loves her, and tomorrow is another day, same for Renoir. And again, the flip side of that you honestly, if you got to be honest with yourself, you got to think about is there are so many characters that will not have a tomorrow, right, because of that decision. Lune, Ciel, Monoko, Esquier, Gustav, Sophie, And that is why, and any decision, and for also it becomes a horrifying thing for Verso. A tomorrow coming for Verso is hell. So,
right,
I think it's just a symbol of the fact that tomorrow should not be taken for granted, and if you have even the smallest possibility to fight for a tomorrow, it is something to cherish, because life is a gift, and art is a gift, and the ability to create is a gift, and as long as you're alive, there are endless possibilities. So I think that's what I take away from it more than anything. It's very thematic and having to do with the story itself, but I love that you were able to add that meta-narrative aspect to it, because I feel like that was something I was missing that I now can really hold close to my heart with regards to those quotes.
Oh man, dude, no, I appreciate that. Like, it's something I haven't been able to stop thinking about, because I remember one time I was looking at the screen on the bottom when it says "We continue."
Yeah. That's so good. Yeah.
I was like, man, they're really committed to this. And obviously in the most pivotal of scenes, like you were just talking about with Lune, Miles' incredible scene in Act 3, like so many, these words continue to come up over and over and over again, and they are so pivotal to the overall thing. But as we wrap up here, AJ, do you have any final thoughts in regards to this game, for anybody who's potentially listening to this and wants to play this game, and if they're listening, then they've been spoiled to high flagness, but that's okay. That's okay. Do you have any final thoughts in regards to this game and for the wonderful individuals that made this game?
Just gratitude. We haven't even really talked about the miracle that this game is in terms of production for the. Right. I mean, it's all over the internet, the story of Sandfall Interactive and how this game came to be, and honestly, it really feels like a miracle that it came together in the way it did. And it's been talked about a lot, but that doesn't mean it should stop being celebrated, because I see a lot on the internet people going, "Oh my god, everyone is just glazing this game Everyone's praising this game. I'm so tired of people praising Expedition 33. And it's like, suck it up, man. This sort of thing is something that needs to be appreciated and gushed about to hell and back till for forever, because these are the sorts of games, these passion projects with so much heart and quality put into them, and craftsmanship and art, that we want. This is what we want.
Yeah.
We want heart and soul in these games, and every year we're lucky to be blessed with great games, but in a continually cynical industry, stuff like this is so it is something to strive for AAA games and for indie games alike. This is just the purest success story and the most empowering, I think, thing I've experienced. One of the most empowering things I've experienced in gaming. So, just for the story alone, I think it's worth checking out. But in terms of the actual game and the quality, like I said at the beginning, there isn't a single thing in this game, I think, that isn't amazing. And it's just endless. You can go back and think about it, and you discover new things. You and I both admitted today to learning something new just through talking to it with each other.
Right.
You might find a new environmental detail that makes you think of something different. The world is so incredibly rich. I didn't even talk about how the setting, in this fantastical setting, the most unbelievable world we've ever one of the most unbelievable worlds we've ever traversed in video games. So beautiful. It is this way because it is literally a child's imagination. This is Verso's world. This is what he painted. This is the place he wanted to explore more. This is his wildest fantasy, and we are living his wildest fantasy. He could put to canvas literally our dreams and his dreams, and we're literally in just the coolest video game world. One of the coolest video game worlds ever, because Verso dreamt it up, and he is like us. He loves stories and worlds and all of that. And how beautiful that is, and how the darkness in this world is not because Verso put this in here. It's because his father and his mother, due to different aspects of their grief, came in here and tore it apart and caused this darkness, and how sad that is. And just how like that detail about the world, it's not spelled out to us, but the more you think about it, the more you go, oh my God, there is so much thought put into everything about this. And that in itself, the fact that the setting is as beautiful as it is and surreal as it is, because it is a kid's imagination, like there's something so profound about that, about art and stories, and why we love art and stories. So
exactly,
just the TLDR is, this game is without doubt one of my favorites of all time, right at the top of my list. The only reason I'm kind of hesitating to put it in the big boys in my list in terms of the top 10, top 5 is because I just finished it. So I feel like, you kind of feel like you have to give it at least a little bit before you can say for sure. But I really don't see it being anything other than one of the best games I've ever played, like right at the top. It's just got everything, and along with just being the quality being top notch, I'm lucky, and I think you're lucky, because it appeals. It is just the perfect type of story for people like us.
Right.
Everything about it is totally up our alley. So I think we're just lucky that this miracle of a game didn't go a different direction, if we're being a bit selfish, and just appealed so directly to us.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, it's just I'm just thankful. I've been thankful for like 3 weeks now since I started playing it, and I will continue to be. And if for some reason you haven't tried it out, honestly, I can't. It's hard to give a stronger recommendation than this, even if I don't know what your tastes are at all.
Yeah. No, beautifully said. I felt the same exact way about that final statement you just said there, which is why I recommended it to everyone in my close friend group. I was like, at the very least, give this game a shot, because even if the story's something that may not resonate with you, a lot of those individuals hold stuff like FF10 and KH and like a lot of those things in like sacred high regard, as like very memorable parts of their childhood, because of stuff like I talked about earlier. And so I was like, at the very least, give it a shot, because there may be something here that resonates you. Maybe the world, maybe the gameplay, maybe the boss battles, maybe the music, it may be the story, maybe all of it. But I think there is something here that everyone can enjoy. I would one final thought on my behalf, because you just touched upon the setting. One of my favorite things about Elden Ring is that no matter where you are on the map, you could see the tree from afar.
Yeah.
And I think in this game, what it does with the 33, and you see the paintress no matter where you go, is such a cool touch, because you're constantly going towards that, and whenever you sit down, in particular in the campfire, as either Gustav or Mael, to write these the things of the journey, to leave them for your apprentices, you always look out, and you're getting a little closer and a little closer and a little closer. The same way that every single day a person lives, they know they're getting closer to the inevitable, but they still choose to move forward. I think that symbol of having the paintress there, which the idea of the paintress is already so... It's one of my favorite things about this game, is the idea of the paintress, what the paintress represents, and the overall scope of the narrative. But I think having that be a part of the setting, that is right off the bat, from the first time you see it, when you're going down with Sophie, and you look over and you see the 33 on the number, and then you see the paintress, she moves, and how all of that is together, for you eventually making your way towards that point. And that is like the single thing. It's like why I love Midgar so much as a location, because everything around Midgar is centered around that one humongous tower in the middle that controls everything. And it's like the beacon that is both holding everything down, but it's simultaneously being the thing that also holds life up at that point in time. It represents so much of what I love about Midgar thematically, and I think the paintress and that particular thing, that entire section that the number sits on, is something that's a part of the setting and a part of the visual imagery of this game, that makes stuff like you were just talking about with the childlike imagination and the world really pop out and feel like it feels so real, feels so fleshed out. And so I love that, and what a game, man. What a phenomenal game. And to know that you can buy it now for full price at $50, which is a steal for a game of this quality, or you could play it on Game Pass for any individual that has that subscription service, is something that is going to open so many avenues for individuals to try out their first JRPG in either many, many years, or maybe even for the first time ever, and get into a brand new medium of stories that could potentially give them something, a lot of different things of value that go into the kind of things that this story is talking about. And so all love to Expedition 33, and all love to AJ for joining me for another 3-hour discussion here on the channel. AJ, man, first and foremost, thank you so much for being here with me. This was an incredible discussion from beginning to end. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But where can the good people find you, and what's the current schedule looking like over on Twitch?
My pleasure. I had such a blast as well. I think this is one of my favorite ones that we've done. This is so much fun. Lots of great stuff to talk about. So yeah, I had a great time too. And as for where you can find me, YouTube channel, Alexander, ALECZANDXR. Sorry for the spelling as always. We got a lot of stuff coming out. I've kind of ramped down after my Rebirth video for a few months because, a 9-hour one will take it out of you.
That's right.
But I have been in the lab big time over the last few weeks, and I've got quite a backlog of videos coming out. So, like, I have the Versa one that I just released. The Mael one will release shortly as well. Lots of just cool discussions on Expedition 33. I'm sure in the future I'll do another one or two. But then I have some One Piece, some Bleach, Hunter x Hunter, some Legend of Zelda. Like, I've got a bunch of stuff cooking in terms of videos on the main channel, and I'm really excited to share it. I'm really excited for it. So on the main channel, we got a bunch of stuff coming in the next few weeks. And then on Twitch, the top 100 era is over, so for this year at least. So we are back to regularly scheduled streams where on more regimented. So on Mondays, we are back with Death Stranding, which I think I've hit sort of kind of mid-game, and it's really a lot of fun to explore Kojima's incredibly cinematic mind. And yeah, the revelations in that game are incredible and keep coming. So Death Stranding right now we're playing. Probably do Metaphor after that. Maybe Devil May Cry. Maybe Devil May Cry, Ace Attorney, but it's probably going to be Metaphor after that. So I'm really looking forward to that. I've been wanting to play that since its release. So yeah, Death Stranding, probably Metaphor after that for Mondays and some Tuesdays. The Wednesday slot, as you mentioned in the beginning, is now my read-through blind of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 7. The first stream was so much fun.
Yes, it really was.
The hype was infectious. I was jumping out of my chair at this damn race, and we just started. I couldn't believe how much fun it was, and the awesome establishment for a lot of the premise and relationships. So that's going to be continuing, and Sundays we always do the One Piece reads, but on the break weeks, I've now started doing Kagurabachi, as you also said. So the first stream was a great success. It was tons of fun. And I'll be continuing on every Sunday that is a break week for One Piece. We'll be doing a Kagurabachi stream. So that's the current schedule. I imagine it'll be for a while. And it's all such great stuff. So I'm super excited for all of it.
Man, dude, I'm so excited for you to play a Metaphor, especially after our discussion here with on Expedition 33.
Yeah,
the Metaphor was a really special game for me last year, so I can't wait to see your gameplay streams on that over on Twitch, as well as your overall thoughts, and we get to have a discussion on that eventually. But ladies and gentlemen, that has been it for us today. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. For anyone who would like to leave a comment in regards to anything that we have said here, please leave it down in the comments section down below, and we look forward to reading it and seeing your thoughts on two individuals rambling about what we love. You know what I'm saying? That's what we're here for, and that's what we'll continue to do over with these collaborations. So I appreciate all of y'all so much for listening. Take care, have an awesome day, and please, like I said, do yourself a favor and play Expedition 33. Watch Arcane. Play Trails. Play Xenoblade, man. Listen to AJ. Don't listen to me. I was holding off for so long. Listen to AJ. You know what I'm saying? Play Xenoblade. I still got to play Cyberpunk, too, man. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying? I can't wait for that. But it's going to be a good time. And obviously, for all the other stuff that we've been doing on the channel, very much looking forward to seeing all of y'all there as well. We continue with the LBAF greatness. Next week, I believe there's a chapter, hopefully. And we'll be back with that as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, that'll be it for this particular installment. Thank you so much for watching. Take care and have a blessed day. Tomorrow comes for those who come after.